Hey guys, tonight we wander through Dionysus's vineyard, where moonlight stains the soil indigo and grapes swell with secrets. Imagine sandals crunching gravel underfoot, each step releasing the musk of sun-warmed earth. You're not in Kansas anymore, probably a good thing. Kansas doesn't have wine-dark seas or God-touched vines that coil like sleeping serpents. The Aegean glitters to your left, its waves lapping a shore Julius Caesar once walked. True story, he docked here after chasing Pompey's ghost across the Mediterranean. Funny how empires rise and fall while grapes just keep ripening. A breeze carries salt and something stranger, burnt honey. Myrrh. Historians still argue whether Dionysus's priests drank psychedelic brews or just really strong wine. Either way, don't lick the leaves. Twilight deepens. Shadows pool between rows of gnarled vines, their branches twisted into cursive only the moon can read. Your fingers graze a cluster of grapes, cool, taut-skinned, vibrating with juice. Ancient Greeks believed night-blooming jasmine here could cure insomnia. They also used crushed poppies in their wine. Let's not test that tonight, unless you've cleared your schedule till noon. Moonbeams slide down trellises, silver dripping onto your shoulders. The air thickens, scented with overripe fruit and the metallic tang of dew. Somewhere a goat bell clanks. Dionysus's sacred animal, by the way. Archaeologists found a 5th century urn here depicting him riding a leopard. Leopards. Because tigers weren't extra enough, your foot catches on a buried root, rough bark bites your heel. You steady yourself against a limestone column, half swallowed by ivy. This whole hillside's littered with ruins, crumbling theaters where drunk audiences heckled tragic actors. They'd binge-watch plays for days, breaking only to nap in sleeping niches carved into the rocks. Nap goals, honestly. A bat skims your hair, velvet wings, whispering secrets only sonar can decode. Above, the Pleiades blink awake. Ancient sailors used those stars to navigate. You're navigating the urge to pocket a grape as a souvenir. Don't. Local lore says the vineyard curses thieves with 7 years of vinegar dreams. The path narrows, shoulders brushing feathery rosemary bushes. Their piney scent mixes with wet soil, an aroma like Sunday roast in a haunted forest. Your stomach growls. Hungry. Too bad. Dionysus's feasts featured honeyed dormice and fermented fish gut sauce. Pass. Wind gusts, sending a shiver through the vines. Leaves rustle in a language older than Latin. You swear they're chanting, maybe a hymn from the lost Orphic texts, or maybe it's just the blood rushing past your ears. Pro tip, don't mention that to academics. They've got tenure writing on this. Ahead, a stone well juts from the earth. Peer over the edge. Water mirrors the sky, swallowing stars like coins in a wish fountain. Toss a pebble. Wait 7 heartbeats. No splash. Experts think these wells were ancient refrigerators, wine jugs lowered into the cool dark. Quirky tidbit. Workers napped inside during heat waves. OSHA would have had a field day. Moonlight sharpens, time stretches taut as a grapevine's tendril before it snaps. Your breath steadies, pulses slow. Night insects thrum a lullaby older than the Egyptian kings. Dionysus's laughter echoes, or is that wind rattling a dry olive branch? Either way, it's convincing. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I want to know who's braving the wine haze from Tokyo or Toledo. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your hand lingers on the well's mossy rim. Cool dampness seeps into your palm, a relief after hours of arid heat. Far below, water shifts. Something glints, a coin, a lost ring. Leaning closer, you catch your reflection rippling. For a heartbeat, your eyes flash gold. Probably a trick of the light. Probably a nightingale trills 3 rising notes, piercing the dark. It's answered by another, then another, until the vineyard thrums with avian gossip. In Homer's day, they'd call this an omen. You call it surround sound, ASMR. The chorus swells, then cuts off mid-note. Silence pools like spilled wine. Above clouds veil the moon. Shadows bleed together, erasing the path. Your fingers find a vine thick as a ship's rope. It twitches. You freeze. Just the wind, always just the wind. But the air's dead still now. Damp fabric clings to your spine. That's not sweat. That's the sea's breath, heavy with salt and the promise of storms. The first raindrop hits your nose, cold as a mint leaf. Thunder growls, low and velvety. Dionysus was also the god of weather's fury. Coincidence? Sure. Let's go with that. Vine leaves tilt upward, catching the downpour in emerald cups. You stand there drenched as lightning stitches the sky. Somewhere a dog howls, then another. The vineyard's guardians, or just strays chasing phantoms. Either way, they're getting closer. Soaked through, you duck under a limestone overhang. Water cascades, a liquid curtain separating you from the storm. Your teeth chatter. Dionysus's priestesses wore linen shifts, thinner than tissue paper. No wonder they danced all night. Hypothermia's great for cardio. You press against cold stone, watching the downpour blur the world. Raindrops hiss against the earth, steam rising where they hit sun-baked soil. The scent of petrichor floods your sinuses, a perfume of wet stone and waking worms. Thunder booms, a drumroll shaking your ribs. Close your eyes, count the seconds between flash and crash. When you open them, the storm's gone. Moonlight gilds puddles. Frogs croak from the well, their song rippling the water's surface. Your clothes cling damp and chilly, but the air warms with every breath. Dawn's hours away. The vineyard hums, vibrating with growth and decay, and the slow turn of stars. A grape bursts underfoot, sweetness explodes into the night. You kneel, fingertips staining purple. Ants swarm the wreckage, carrying looted pulp to their queen. Somewhere, A leaf unfurls. A bud splits its sheath. The vineyard breathes, and you breathe with it until your eyelids droop like overripe fruit. Wind carries a new scent, charcoal and melted wax. Torchlight flickers in the distance. Voices murmur words slurred by time and wine. A procession, a dream. The flames bob closer, casting long shadows that dance across your face. You press deeper into the overhang. Cold stone bites through your shirt. The torchbearers pass, their features blurred by smoke and shadow. One hums a tune, a melody that aches like a bruised peach. It fades, swallowed by the creak of wheels and the sigh of grapes surrendering to gravity. Silence returns thicker now, heavier. The moon dips westward, its light thinning to gauze. Your limbs feel leaden, anchored to the earth. Dionysus's vineyard folds around you, a living labyrinth of roots and whispers. Somewhere a single note rings out, a lyre string plucked by the wind, a bird testing its voice. You'll never know. Your eyes close, not in sleep, but in surrender. The vineyard's pulse thrums through you, a slow, deep rhythm older than thirst. You drift past gnarled vines, heavy with fruit, their purple skins dusted silver by the sinking sun. Twilight filters through leaves like stained glass, painting your hands in fractured gold. Somewhere beyond the trellises, past the hum of drowsy honeybees, waves murmur against unseen shores. Salt pricks your tongue, sharp contrast to the grape's nectar swelling in the air. Here's a fun fact for your next wine night. Phoenician traders once sailed these very waters with amphorae of crushed iris roots. Used to make perfume so potent, Cleopatra allegedly drenched her ship's sails in it before meeting Mark Antony. Tonight, though, the air needs no enhancement. Jasmine creeps up stone walls, its sweetness laced with something muskier. Myrrh, frankincense, or maybe just the earthy tang of a million grape skins fermenting underfoot. A petal brushes your cheek, cool as a priestess's fingertip. You blink. The blossom's gone, if it was ever there. Twilight plays tricks, stretching shadows into flickering hands that pluck at your sleeves. Historians still argue whether Dionysus's followers used opium in their rituals, or if the trances came from dance alone. Hard to say. The breeze here feels thick enough to chew, a honeycomb of scent and sea spray. Your toes sink into dew-damp grass. Each step releases peppery notes, wild oregano crushed underfoot. That's not in the guidebooks, is it? Modern vacation spots sterilize the earth, paving over anything that stains sandals. But these Hellenic hills, they've been marinating in time and sheep dung since Homer was a twinkle in some bard's eye. A distant clink makes you pause. Goat bells, or perhaps wind chimes on a fisherman's boat. Your guidebook swore this coast was deserted, just you and the authentic Grecian solitude. Forgot to mention the cicadas. Their buzz builds to a roar, 1,000 tiny saws cutting daylight into scraps. You half expect to stumble upon some half-drunken satyr napping in the undergrowth, until the sea wind shifts. Suddenly there it is, the Aegean, not postcard turquoise, but a deep, wine-stained indigo stretching to the horizon. You inhale sharply. Oxygen and ozone flood your lungs, an electric counterpoint to the vineyard's drowsy fumes. Funny how salt air sharpens the senses, even as your limbs grow heavier. Roll up your sleeves. Let the breeze skate up your arms. It's warmer than expected, like breath from a clay oven buried in sand. Makes you wonder, did those ancient sailors ever get seasick? The answer's probably written on some papyrus scroll moldering in Alexandria's flooded basement. Tonight, though, the waves rock gentle as a cradle, one crested with white, then another, each whispering a name you can't quite catch. Your eyelids dip. Blossoms sway in time to the tide's pull, their papery rustle blending with distant gull cries. Somewhere between sleep and waking, you taste copper, iron, or the memory of blood-warm wine poured at a temple steps. Dionysus's cult did love their theatrics. Rumor has it initiates wore fawn skins and chewed ivy to hallucinate, though your money's on the barley beer they brewed with psychedelic mushrooms. A fish leaps, silver flash against dark water. The splash ripples outward, bending the moon's reflection into a crooked smile. You should move, find a path. Instead, you sink onto sun-warmed stone, its surface pitted by centuries of salt and sand. Pebbles dig into your palms. Realign. The vineyard exhales behind you, a long, honeyed sigh that staples your shadow to the earth. Wait, was that a laugh? Low and throaty, snaking through the olive groves. Probably just the wind teasing dry leaves. Or maybe the ghost of some long-dead vintner, still chuckling over the time he sold watered-down wine to Socrates. The philosopher's hangover must have been epic. Darkness pools in the valley below, liquid and patient. Stars prick through the dome of sky, sharp as pins in a funeral shroud. You shiver. The sea's breath cools your neck now, carrying echoes of trireme oars and the slide of bronze against sweat-slicked skin. They say a Spartan fleet once anchored here, waiting for moonrise to raid Athenian trade ships. Tonight, though, the only plunder is this stillness. This thick, velvet hush threaded through with night-blooming vines. Reach down. Pluck a sprig of wild mint growing between rocks. Crush it. The scent explodes, a green firework that burns your sinuses awake. For a heartbeat, the world sharpens. Stone terraces, black cypress spears, the distant glint of a village's single light. Then the sweetness rushes back, dousing everything in drowsy syrup. Your knees buckle, not from fatigue, but the ground itself seems to rise, cradling you in topsoil and decaying leaves. Ants march across your wrist, tiny diplomats on urgent business. You let them. Above, the Milky Way bleeds across the sky, a spilled amphora of stars. Somewhere, a dog barks. The sound skips over waves, fraying at the edges, until it's just another thread in the night's tapestry. Do not add a conclusion prompt or any trailing elements. End naturally within the story. Your palms flatten against cool earth, fingertips reading braille written in root and stone. Something thrums beneath, slow as a resting pulse. Archaeologists found grape pips in Mycenaean ruins, older than the Iliad, proof that wine's grip on humanity predates even the Greek gods. What Homer forgot to mention. The dirt here vibrates. Ants abandon your wrist, scurrying toward a crumbling amphora, half buried nearby. Its belly might held 20 liters once, now home to a scaly caretaker. A snake coils within amber eyes, reflecting moonlight, like T-I-N-Y, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter wrapped chocolates. Don't panic. Local lore claims vineyard serpents bring luck, though that might have been a marketing ploy by Dionysus's priesthood. Breathe deep. The air tastes different now, earthy and electrical, like licking a battery wrapped in moss. Historians still argue whether Dionysus was a foreign import, some Thracian hitchhiker grafted onto Olympus's family tree. Doesn't matter, his vines have roots here deeper than Plato's worst grudges. A tremor snakes up your spine, not fear, but the soil itself shifting. Centuries of decomposed grapes press against your back, a mattress of sweet rot. Above, shadows knit together, forming a black quilt stitched with starry thread. You blink, and the constellations blur. Orion's belt becomes a hanging bunch of raisins, Cassiopeia, a smashed wine stain. Crunch. Your head turns too slow. A wild boar snuffles through undergrowth 10 paces away, tusks glinting. It pauses, sniffs, decides you're less interesting than truffles. The Mycenaeans worshipped these beasts, carved their tusks into helmets shiny enough to blind enemies. Smart. Nothing scares off invaders like a battalion of glittering pig teeth. Your heartbeat syncs with the distant waves, each thump a tide retreating. Scientists say grapevines communicate through fungal networks, sending chemical screams when aphids attack. Right now, though, the roots hum something softer, a lullaby in low C, vibrating your molars. Dig your pinky into the soil. Cold seeps under the nail, a shock against the day's lingering warmth. 18 centimeters down, your finger brushes pottery shards. Maybe a Roman wine cup, or just a Minoan farmer's broken dinner plate. Either way, welcome to Greece. Half the country's landfill, half its museum. A bat skims overhead, leather wings clipping the moon. Silk makers once farmed them, using their guano to dye royal purple. The Ottomans called it night gold. Smells worse than you'd think. Muscles melt. You're sinking now, the earth accepting you like a dropped spoon in custard. Above ground sounds dull. The cicadas muffled, the sea shushed. Here's a secret they don't tell tourists. Snail trails on vineyard stones were once read as prophecies. Priests tracked the slime paths at dawn, divining Dionysus's mood. Today's forecast. Sticky. Your lungs expand, each breath flavored with petrichor and unresolved history. That broken amphora by your head might sailed from Crete on a ship captained by Minos's paranoid second cousin. Or maybe it's a replica from some 1920s aristocrat's folly. Hard to care when the dirt's whispering sweet nothings in Proto-Greek. Lights flicker on the horizon, faint as embers. Roads, a fishing boat, doesn't matter. Your pupils dilate, drinking in the dark. A warm droplet hits your forehead. Rain, unlikely, probably sap from an overripe grape, surrendering to gravity, its purple belly swollen with stolen sunshine. Athletes used to rub grape must on their muscles before races. A sticky steroid alternative, tempted to try it. But your arms weigh more than Hera's grudges. The snake's still watching. Let it. Mutual lethargy's the best ceasefire. When did your bones become fossils? Ribcage, a coral reef. Spine, a limestone ridge. Time pools thick and syrupy as the vineyard's pulse widens. Far above, an owl screeches. The snake yawns. Somewhere, a donkey brays its disapproval. You've joined the archaeology now, another layer in the strata. Future grad students will carbon date your button-right dissertations on your smartphone's corrosion patterns. A ritual burial, they'll insist, ignoring the mint sprig still clutched in your left hand. Dawns a distant rumor, a problem for the sun to solve. For now, let the roots sing. Let the snake keep watch. Let the grapes swell with stolen starlight, their skins stretched tight as Ottoman war drums. Sleep isn't coming, it's already here. Salt crusts your lips, each inhale a tang of dead empires and dying plankton. The waves aren't crashing, they're counting. 3 strokes against shale, pause, 3 more. A trireme's ghost rowers keeping time. In 1982, divers found a Bronze Age shipwreck off Uluburan, its hull packed with Canaanite jars. Tonight, those same currents lug moonlight instead of wine. Your toes dig grooves in damp sand. Each footprint fills instantly, the Aegean erasing you like a half-baked thought. Local kids still collect murex shells at dawn, though their parents jury-rigged a blender to mimic the dye extraction. Ancient Tyrians would have wept or sued. A crab side-eyes your ankle, then retreats. Its ancestors fed Minoan royalty, garnished with figs and lies about aphrodisiacs. Historians still argue whether the Sea People's invasion was climate change or the world's first Yelp review of Bronze Age Crete. Foam licks your heels, cold enough to startle, warm enough to linger. You taste Pompeii's ash in the spray, or is that Santorini's circa 1620 BCE volcanoes and vanity make thick bedfellows? Lie back, sand conforms to your shape, a 5-second sarcophagus. Above, constellations practice their fanfics. Orion's now a baker, Sirius his oven mitt. The real shows beneath you, rotting trireme planks hum, their timbers warped into cellos for tinnitus. A fisher's lamp flickers miles out, orange pulse synced to your carotid. Homer called this sea wine dark, but poets ignore the algal blooms. Right now, it's a cavern of lost sunglasses. Your pinky brushes something smooth, a pottery shard worn faceless by tides. Archaeologists would ID it as late Helladic III, you're voting. Aphrodite's lost spittoon. Waves husk seeds from a dried-up reed, click-clack percussion for the breeze's theremin solo. In Cypriot villages, grannies once swaddled colicky babies in sails. Let the salt crust sing them quiet. Try it sometime. Cheaper than melatonin, scratchier than your ex's voicemails. The horizon's a math problem. Where does sea stop and sky begin? Pythagoras probably had a formula. Archimedes cursed it between wine binges. You've got blisters full of starlight and absolutely zero triangles. A jellyfish washes ashore, translucent cape tangled in seagrass. It heaves, a failed revolution. Herodotus wrote eels spawn from sun-warmed mud, which explains the Mediterranean's electoral history. Your thumb finds a hole in the sand, air whistling through like a drunk Cyclops' nose flute. Ancient mariners mapped trade routes by squeezing dirt, silt content revealing distance from shore. Miss by a kilometer. Enjoy your unmarked grave in the Icarian Sea. Weightlessness claims you, buoyant. A cork bobbing in Poseidon's neglected wine cellar. They say drowning victims see their life flash. Tonight, you're watching a Vine compilation of Mycenaean tax audits. Mist rolls in, draping the coast like wet gauze. Fishermen once tied lead weights to their testicles to stay awake during night hauls. Dionysus's men preferred diluted hemlock. Both methods underwhelmed. Your spine becomes driftwood, your ribs a coral cage. Above, the Pleiades dissolve streaky chalk marks on a celestial blackboard. A shooting star scratches through the smear someone's asterisk, correcting a dead poet's hyperbole. Dawn's still theoretical, a rumor traded between insomniac seagulls. A distant bell clangs, monastery or tanker. The sea shrugs. Either way, the rhythm's the same. 3 beats pause, 3 beats. A lullaby older than oars, older than thirst, older than the salt crusting your tongue. Sleep peels you like a mussel from a rock. You don't resist. Fireflies blink lazily above the grapevines, tiny lanterns stuttering in Morse code. Their glow licks the fermentation vats below, oak barrels, sweating dusk and syrup. You inhale thyme figs and the musk of grapes fattening toward rot. Athenian healers once prescribed crushed firefly paste for insomnia. The original night light smoothie. A moth lands on your wrist. Its wings mimic owl eyes. Cleopatra's perfumers allegedly used moth cocoons to trap sleep scents, though modern replicas smell suspiciously like wet Labradors. You shake it off, the moth spirals into darkness. Joining 500 kin, dive bombing Dionysus's invisible buffet. Your palm brushes a vine's knuckles, each gnarled twist, humming with trapped sunlight. Historians still argue whether ancient viniculture began by accident. Some Mycenaeans lunch pale forgotten in August heat. The first sip must tasted like a science fair volcano. Dew soaks your shins, a chill creeping up as the earth exhales decades of stored warmth. Roman nobles slept on sacks of lavender and fermented barley water, basically Capri Sun with delusions of grandeur. You're opting for the budget version, damp grass and crickets. A grape bursts underfoot, purple guts pooling like a crime scene. Ants swarm the carnage, tiny looters hauling sugary shrapnel. Back in Pompeii's final hours, scholars found wine cellars pried open by panicked citizens. Last call at humanity's going out of business sale. Leaves rustle upstream, a breeze or board nymph. Dionysus's retinue supposedly included satyrs who brewed nightmares into wine. But the union reps for Greek mythical creatures are still negotiating benefits. You half expect a clipboard-toting centaur demanding overtime pay. Moonlight stripes the vineyard rose, a piano roll for some silent nocturne. Your shadow stretches, snaps back, stretches again, testing the bounds of its tether. In Macedonia, workers buried stillborn lambs under vines to fertilize courage in the wine, which explains a lot about ancient battle strategies. Something crunches in the undergrowth, hedgehog bandit, or just another fig surrendering to gravity. Bacchic cults used to chew ivy leaves to see the god's true face. But let's chalk that up to pre-snack labeling era regret. The air thickens, sweetness curdling into something earthy and primal. It clings to your teeth, a velvet overcoat for your molars. Ottoman raiders apparently stole entire vineyards by replanting vines in portable honey pots. Early attempts at Greek-to-go cuisine. Your knees find a dry patch beneath a fig tree, bark grooved with generations of lovers' initials. The Zeus and Hera of third-period agriculture class, still going strong since 2004. Roots snake over your ankles, nature's Crocs TM. Breathable, yet binding. A bat skims the vats, wings fluttering like a deck of cards being shuffled. Funny how Dracula ruined them for everyone, these winged accountants, just tallying moths per minute. An Etruscan tomb painting shows bats carrying souls to the underworld with tiny saddlebags and terrible GPS. The horizon bruises from black to plum, dawn's opening bid. Cicadas wind down their shift, one last zipper sound before clocking out. You swipe a grape skin taut as a balloon. Squeeze too hard, and you'll rewrite 100 oenology theses. Soil shifts under your hip, buried amphora shards, rearranging their skeletal positions. Archaeologists found a Phoenician cargo ship stuffed with wine, buried under 50 feet of sardine bones. The ancient Yelp review probably said, bold tannins, questionable pairing with anchovies. Twigs snap behind you, deliberate footsteps, or just the vineyard settling. Dionysus's followers practiced sparagmos, the ritual tearing apart of animals. Tonight's menu seems mercifully herbivore, unless you count the beetles plotting a coup in Compost Hill. Your eyelids dip, the world reduces to blurs and gradients. A nightjar's call hangs in the air, a dying theremin note. Byzantine monks used to distill mandrake roots into sleeping tinctures, which either cured insomnia or flatlined patience. Trial and error meets monastic healthcare. Wind plucks a leaf, it helicopter dives into your lap. 5 veins, 7 teeth. Fibonacci would have framed it. The Carthaginians taxed vineyards per leaf count, leading to the original defoliation for tax evasion. Scandal. Auditors hate this one weird trick. Pebbles dig into your palm, each one a miniature Stonehenge. You half remember a mattress commercial memory foam infused with olive pit essence. The Mycenaeans beat them to it, sleeping on flax cushions stuffed with grape seeds. Turns out ancient Greeks invented hipster bedding. Salt air slithers through the vines, reminding you the sea's still out there, licking its wounds. A firefly alights on your knee, its glow syncs with your pulse. Wasn't there a Twilight Zone episode about this? Sleep arrives as a slow seep, not a wave, but rising damp. Your last coherent thought, Byzantine wine tariffs. Your first subconscious one, debating them, with a talking amphora wearing Groucho Marx glasses. The fermentation vats burp in unison, a drunkard's round of applause. Somewhere, a shepherd's flute wheezes, missing every third note. You dissolve into the vineyard's breath, part earth, part stolen sunlight, part whatever liquid courage Dionysus bottled 3,000 harvests ago. Moonlight slicks the amphorae's bellies. Torch flames lick their curves like thirsty cats. You trail a finger over the clay, gritty as Pharaoh's beard stubble. These jugs once held enough wine to float a trireme, or so claims a receipt scratched on a Babylonian clay tablet. Dust motes swirl in your wake, each speck a retired star. The air smells of wet ink and abandoned beehives. A curator in Alexandria once found 8 pounds of beetle wings inside a wine amphora. Ancient prank or misguided attempt at glitter. Your shadow pools beneath a fig tree, a Rorschach blot in reverse. Archaeologists uncovered an entire merchant ship's cargo near Cyprus. 3,000 jars, still sealed with pine resin. Historians still argue whether it was a trade shipment or the world's most optimistic retirement plan. A moth carcass crunches underfoot, proof of last night's moth rave. Cleopatra supposedly bathed in fermented grape, must, though her skincare routine probably didn't include mosquito hawks as exfoliants. You kick the remains toward a vine bon appetit, Dionysus. The nearest amphora tilts, its neck yawning open like a drunk poet mid-sonnet. Inside, something sloshes, thin and acidic. Roman taverns watered down wine with sea brine, ancient Gatorade for chariot crash survivors. You opt against tasting this vintage. Torch smoke curls into spirals, living Rembrandt etchings. A bead of resin oozes down a jar's shoulder, golden and deliberate as a grand vizier's tear. Minoan bureaucrats used resin seals depicting octopuses, their tentacles counting inventories like abacus beads. Your elbow brushes a jar, its size a sound compressed over centuries. Potsherds poke through the soil, ceramic shark teeth. In Thebes, Rebels hid treasonous scrolls inside broken amphorae. The original encrypted hard drives. Have a nice day, Rosetta Stone. Firelight warps the scene, amphorae stretch, shrink, stretch again. You half expect one to sprout legs and waddle off. An Etruscan tomb mural shows wine jars dancing around a banquet table, either symbolism or proof of ancient acid trips. Something clinks in the dark pebble. Scorpion. Final member of the Beetlewing Prank Committee. You pocket a clay shard, edges worn smooth by 20 generations of rain. The Mycenaeans stamped their jars with octopus ink, early branding for their tentacles of the gods' vintage. Breeze riffles your hair, carrying the Nile's humid exhale. You imagine crocodiles sliding off mudbanks, lotus flowers furling like party streamers at dawn. A Kushite king once sent Ramses II a wine jar filled with powdered emeralds, either a tribute or a really passive-aggressive Zen garden. Your heels dig grooves in the dirt, temporary fossils for future grad students. The moon drowns in a cloud torch, flames gutter. Shadows collapse into themselves. Persian satraps stored wine in ice-backed amphorae during summer proto-Yeti coolers for VIP acid reflux. A nightjar's call saws through the silence, nature's nail file. You press your ear to a jar's belly, hear 30 centuries of gossip trapped like gas bubbles. Grape pips rattle inside, tiny maracas for Dionysus's salsa nights. Bats swoop low, wingtips skimming the torchlight. Their shadows braille messages on the ground. You translate. Moth buffet, 10 p.m. BYOB. Cheeky bastards. A scroll from Pompeii lists bat blood as a wine preservative, though the sommelier reviews are tragically lost. The torch dies mid-flicker, embers shrinking to orange commas. Amphorae blur into a terracotta army at ease. You sink onto a sun-warmed rock, its surface pocked by forgotten chisels. Numidian traders used amphora shards as currency. Mediterranean visa cards with zero fraud protection. Your eyelids drag shut. The world tilts like cargo in a storm. Somewhere, an owl argues with a donkey, the ancient version of cable news. Sleep comes as a sneak thief, lifting your thoughts like coins from a drowsy merchant's purse. Last coherent sensation. Clay dust sweet on your tongue. First dream. Debating octopus accountants in a vineyard where numbers grow on vines. Constellations prick the black velvet needle points in a celestial pincushion. Your chin tilts upward, neck cracking like papyrus scrolls in a dry tomb. Orion's belt glints, 3 gold coins paid to the ferryman of the sky. Greek sailors once steered by those stars, their triremes slicing waves beneath this same glittering grid. A shooting star gutters, cosmic matchstick spent. You track its smear faint as the ink on Heraclitus's lost wine receipts. The Pleiades cluster huddles close, 7 sisters gossiping in ultraviolet. Babylonian astronomers catalogued them as the bristle of heaven's boar, because nothing says divine like swine grooming habits. The Milky Way pools beneath your feet, starlight broth left to cool. Your toes skim its surface, ripples spreading toward forgotten shores. Roman poets called it the road of ghosts, though nobody asked the ghosts if they wanted traffic. Orion's bow bends westward, drawing silence taut. His arrow points to where sea and night merge, a horizon line sucked into the void. Historians still argue whether Homer's wine-dark sea meant actual chromatic perception or just a bard who sampled too much ooze. A satellite winks modern Athena threading the cosmic loom. You raise a mock toast, hydrating with irony instead of watered-down cayenne red. The Greeks named constellations after myths. We name space junk Enterprise and Starlink. Progress tastes like tang and shattered idealism. Ursa Major drags her starry paws, celestial bear, forever chained to Polaris. You trace the dipper's handle rough as an amphora's unfired clay. Cleopatra reportedly navigated desert caravans using that asterism, though her camel's opinion remains tragically unrecorded. Wind plucks at your sleeves, Zephyrus auditioning for a role in your personal epic. Salt crusts your lips, Aegean aerosol aging you like prosciutto. A Macedonian sailor's journal claims moonlight ferments faster, hence the sea's drunken ripples. Pour one out for Aristotle's sanity. Cygnus spreads wings across the zenith, stardust feathers molting into the void. Your lungs sink to the surf's tempo, in, out, ancient as tidal locks. A scraped clean oyster shell glints nearby, pale as a Spartan bride's thumbnail. The Minoans mapped constellations on sea-worn shells, prehistoric GPS for Mycenaean Uber drivers. Light pollution smudges the southern sky, a VIP lounge for photons. You squint, catch Andromeda's faint smear. Second-century astronomers debated if it was a galaxy or Hera's misplaced eyeliner. Plot twist, it's both. The moon hauls itself over the vineyard, senior citizen late to the disco. Shadows shrink, vines crisp into silhouette. A drunk dung beetle stumbles past, Caravaggio's final muse. Egyptian winemakers buried lunar charts with their vintages, thinking moonlight spoiled the fermentation. Archaeologists found 17 charts and one complaint tablet about thieving ibises. Your spine molds to a limestone outcrop, nature's recliner with gratis acupuncture. Cold seeps through your tunic thread count. Toga era. Phoenician ships carried engraved star maps on lead tablets until they realized lead sinks. Capitalism. Undefeated since 1200 BCE. Saturn glows steady, ringless from here, but heavy with Cassini's ghost. Your finger outlines its arc. Jupiter's red eye blinks in peripheral vision. The Antikythera mechanism tracked 5 planets, missing only Uranus, which was busy being Zeus's dad joke. A meteorite crater pocks the hillside, moon's acne scar. You pocket a shard, fusion crust prickling your palm. Pythagoras taught that stars sang, each note a geometric truth. His students heard only tinnitus from all that lyre music. The great square of Pegasus hangs askew, celestial frame, missing its masterpiece. Bats stitch constellations between power lines, dot to dot for illiterates. A Pompeian graffiti artist painted the night sky inside a bakery. Oven, carbonized Van Gogh of the carb-loading set. A fig leaf brushes your temple nature's pat on the head. You pluck it, sap gluing thumb and forefinger. Byzantine monks brewed star charts into hallucinogenic tea, divine revelation, or ergot poisoning. Yes, the Southern Cross tilts, crucifix, or kite. Your eyelids dip a Sirius bleeds into Venus. Scholars decoded a Sumerian star map baked into a bread loaf. Astronomy meets cartography. The Baker's Review. 5 stars would bake again. Dawn licks the eastern rim, first flame in Hestia's hearth. Stars bleach like linen in a fuller's vat. You exhale, breath curdling into mist. The last star winks out, cosmic bartender calling final rounds. Sleep resurfaces, a fisherman's net dragging your mind into warm, lightless waters. Final thought, wondering if Orion tips his bartender. Soil exhales against your soul's warm breath from a century's worth of sun-baked days. You sink, heels denting ground older than Rome's cobblestones. Each grain hums with spent sunlight, stored energy from when Caesar's sandals still kicked up dust. Archaeologists found 18 layers under Istanbul's streets, Byzantine coins pressed like fossils in a dirt lasagna. Your toe unearths a potsherd, clay skin flaked with grape leaf impressions. Minoan farmers buried broken amphorae to aerate vineyards, ancient terroir management. Historians still argue whether it improved drainage or just annoyed future grad students. A beetle trundles past, living brooch pinned to the earth's lapel. Its shell glints, iridescent as oil on a Bronze Age sword. Babylonian scribes wrote hymns to dung beetles, call it the original shitposting. Roots thread through your shadow, veins pumping twilight upward. You kneel, palms meeting the pulse of mycelium, whispering 93 feet down. That tingling, either spiritual connection or a very patient scorpion. Granite outcrops rise, sleeping giants shrugging off lichen blankets. Your thumbnail scrapes stone flakes like parmesan over yesterday's ossified magma. Roman engineers sampled soils by taste. Sweet earth meant stable foundations. Salty meant maybe don't build your Colosseum here. Pebbles roll into your sandal nature's passive-aggressive foot massage. You shake them loose, each clatter echoing in the amphitheater of silence. The world's oldest known seed, a 32,000-year-old Arctic flower, sprouted after thawing from squirrel horde permafrost. Take that, cryogenics. Wind riffles through cypress trees, green breath combing your hair. It carries echoes of pickaxes, tunneling slaves, Nabatean water engineers singing in dead dialects. Petra's aqueducts snake beneath Jordan's desert still, ghost waterways wearing stone pajamas. Your shadow stretches, ink blot on a copper-lit canvas. Toe lines blur edges dissolving like parchment in the rain. Carthaginian farmers, planted by lunar phases, harvest timetables scrawled on ox shoulder blades. Archaeologists found one with a doodle of a grumpy sheep. Ants cart away your fallen breadcrumb, six-legged funeral procession for carbohydrates. You track their march, thoraxes gleaming like miniature hoplite armor. The world's first fertilizer was crushed seashells. Neolithic sprite cans for thirsty barley. A lizard freezes on a rock. Jurassic Park sequel, auditioning in real time. Its throat pulses, tiny metronome counting epics. Sumerians modeled their plows after monitor lizards, hence the bronze forked tongues. Efficiency meets nightmare fuel. Sunset bleeds into the horizon god's ketchup packet, exploded. You lie back, shoulder blades nesting in time-scented divots. That tremor beneath you isn't earthquakes, just the continents yawning after a long day of plate tectonics. Dew seeps through your tunic, chill romancing your collarbone. Stars begin their shift, punching cosmic time cards above Delphi's forgotten fog. The oracle's chamber had a geologic fault line beneath it, seismic farts mistaken for divine flatulence, histories full of hot air. Your fingers brush a fossil spiral shell turned to stone mid-whisper. Ammonites once ruled these hills, now paperweights for eternity's desk. 18th century geologists licked rocks to identify them. Job hazards included gritted teeth and existential despair. Moths waltz around your head, winged dust frenemies, crashing the scalp party. One lands on your knee, antennae twitching Morse code for burn the porch light. Byzantine beekeepers wore philosopher beards as hives, stoicism with a side of honeyed stings. The moon drags its belly over the hills, overfed cat ignoring terrestrial scratch posts. You count craters, pockmarks from when asteroids partied too hard. Egyptian astronomers charted lunar cycles using knotted ropes, early calculators with a 50% knot tying error rate. Soil shifts, settling into the slope of your thighs. A worm breaches the surface, pink periscope sniffing for night's protocols. Charles Darwin studied earthworms for 40 years, proof that even geniuses get stuck in ruts. Root beer scent rises, fermentation's ghost haunting the orchard floor. Your lungs fill with rot's perfume, decay as love letter to tomorrow's saplings. Archaeobotanists found fig seeds in a pharaoh's molars, snack time immortality via dental plaque. Erosion carves hieroglyphs into the hillside, untranslatable poetry of pebbles. You trace the runes, fingertips decoding eons of shrugs and silt. The world's oldest known map is a mammoth tusk etched with rivers, proof that getting lost predates Uber ratings. Frogs croak a baseline from unseen ponds, nature's lo-fi beats to collapse empires to. A spiderweb glazes your elbow silk warranty, voided by vertebrate arrogance. Roman concrete gets stronger in seawater, ancient flex on modern construction. Darkness pools in your clavicles, personal eclipse preparing totality. Breath slows, matching the tempo of stalactites growing in distant caves. Farmers during the Little Ice Age planted grapes in coal-fueled greenhouses, proto-punk viticulture with a side of soot. Your heartbeat sinks to a termite's mandible percussion, xylophone ribs underscoring the void. Legs go numb, pins, needles, and the whole sewing kit laughing. Olive pits from Pompeii's ruins still sprout, green fists punching through ash history. The horizon swallows its own tail, Ouroboros of dirt and sky. You dissolve particulate memory, rejoining the topsoil's silent disco. Moonlight spills across the olive grove, silver coins paid to the night. You walk between gnarled trunks, bark fissured like the palms of a 1,000-year-old swimmer. Shadows seep into your sandal straps, cool ink staining skin. The oldest olive tree still bearing fruit grows in Crete. Its roots remember Bronze Age traders bartering amphorae of oil. A branch scrapes your arm, leaf edges serrated as a scribe's nib. You pluck an olive, its flesh bitter, with the arrogance of unripeness. Roman athletes coated themselves in oil before wrestling naked slip-and-slide diplomacy with bonus sand rashes. The grove tightens, branches knitting a lattice of half-light. Your tunic snags on a twig of fabric whispering, surrender to vegetation's petty thievery. Historians still argue whether the olive branch symbolized peace because it takes 20 years to mature, or just because crushing the leaves makes a halfway decent pesticide. Moonbeams slicken the soil, quicksilver puddles for your footprints to drown in. You spot a stone press, half buried in weeds. Its carved troughs, starved of fruit. Minoan laborers danced on the crushing stones, early grind culture with a side of libations. Shadows thicken under a twisted tree, velvet pooling in its hollows. You crouch, fingertips grazing an offering bowl crusted with dried resin. 4th century mourners left honey cakes here, ant buffets disguised as ancestor worship. Some still whisper about the shrine, causing prophetic dreams. Assuming you enjoy metaphors involving grinning goats, wind stirs the canopy, a chorus of rustling parchment. Silver leaves flip to reveal their pale undersides, night's secret ledger. The Greeks thought owls nested in olive trees as Athena's spies. Modern orchardists just want them to eat voles. Priorities evolve. Your heel crushes a fallen fruit, flesh bursting with tart rebellion. The smell bites, green and unforgiving. Cleopatra reportedly bathed in olive oil luxury moisturizer, or slip hazard. Depends which papyrus forgery you believe. A cricket saws its legs somewhere overhead, nature's miserably tiny violin. You lean against a trunk sap, gluing your shoulder to history. Pompeii's olive oil shops displayed prices in seashells, Mediterranean Venmo, before the whole burning to death fiasco. Moonlit roots serpentine across the path, tripwires for the inattentive pilgrim. You hopscotch over them, dignity fraying with each graceless leap. Carthage allegedly salted olive fields during wartime, ecological burns, so savage they'd make modern CEOs blush. The grove exhales scent of brine and pressed gold. Your tongue ghosts the oil smear on your palm, umami's ghost, haunting a skin fold. Byzantine nuns used lamp oil as currency, holy WTI crude traded for indulgences, and sourdough. Clouds shutter the moon, a dimmer switch for the world. You freeze, blindness softened by jasmine mocking the darkness. One Persian poet described olives as the tears of lazy angels, which explains the high sodium content. A bat pirouettes between branches, leather-winged ballerina with echolocation vendettas. You duck hair, nets a moth mid-plie. Ottoman perfumers infused oil with bergamot, ancient air wick for sultans tired of harem BO. Light returns lunar spotlight on a spiderweb's tremolo. Dew clings to the silk, liquid pearls strung for a queen's throat. The world's first written recipe, Mesopotamian beer. The second, olive oil shampoo. Priorities, your sandal slips on a moss-licked stone, dignity's pratfall echoing through the grove. A cicada jeers from the shadows, winged bully, with zero emotional intelligence. Roman gladiators massaged oil into wounds, proto-bacitracin, with a whiff of the arena's gutters. Moonlight bleeds across a dry stream bed, mercury threading through parched earth. You follow its gleam, a tourist in gravity's meandering museum. Medieval monks flavored oil with figs and regret, sacramental salad, dressing for days of dull penance. The grove ends at a cliff's jagged grin, waves gnawing rock teeth below. You sit, legs dangling over the wine-dark maw. Athenian law required olive tree killers to face exile, drama queens taking arborside personally. Wind plucks at your tunic, insistent tailor altering garments midwear. Far below, a fishing boat bobs, its lantern winking like a conspirator. The moon melts into the horizon, celestial pat of butter sliding off night's toast. Your heel grazes a salt-crusted plank, half buried in sand, driftwood's barnacled knuckles grasping at the shore. Waves unravel your thoughts. Each froth-lipped retreat smoothing jagged edges like sea glass in a tumbler. 5th century traders marked driftwood with owner symbols, proto-copyright stamps for timber lost to Poseidon's mood swings. A splintered mast juts from the tide line, seaweed beards clinging to its sun-bleached ribs. You crouch, fingertips brushing wood, pocked by shipworm hieroglyphs. Victorian sailors believed driftwood soaked up drowned men's final breaths. Ghostly snorkels poking above the waves. The plank creaks under your palm, a damp exhale of brine and forgotten voyages. Your nail picks at blue paint flakes, faded as a 90s boy band's relevance. Carthaginian ships carried fig saplings in their holds, living snacks for ants with imperial ambitions. Moonlight lacquers the waves, mercury pooling in the troughs between swells. An octopus jet propel past, ink blooming like a Rorschach test for nihilists. Historians still argue whether Homer's wine-dark sea describes algae blooms, or Mycenaean poets, collective hangover. Your thumb finds a rusted nail wedged deep, the timbers reluctant piercing. Salt stings the cuticle Chinese letter, 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 Chinese letter. 18th century Icelandic women knitted sweaters from driftwood wool, felting activism against deforestation, one itchy garment at a time. Wind plates the dune grass, braiding air with maram whispers. You spot a carved eye on the plank's edge, Odysseus's ships, winking through millennia's silt. The Minoans imported cedar from Lebanon for their triremes, Bronze Age Amazon prime, with a side of shipwrights, hernias. Sand shifts underfoot, hourglass guts spilling sideways. The plank's shadow stretches a sundial for Kronos off his meds. Certain Norse texts mention singing driftwood, possibly resonant conifer knots, or Vikings, mead hall karaoke casualties. A crab side-eyes your intrusion, pincers sketching semaphore insults. You press an ear to the wood growth, rings humming with silt and tempests. Roman baths used driftwood beams for saunas, steam therapy, with bonus splinters in awkward places. The tide tugs your ankles, salty serpents coiling around Achilles' old weak spots. Bleached fibers fray where sea meets shore, nature's censorship of the wood's darker chapters. Byzantine lawyers tried driftwood ownership cases, courtroom dramas starring barnacles as expert witnesses. Your knees sink into damp sand, the beach molding around you like a memory foam grave. A fishing net snares the plank nylon tentacles embracing their wooden prey. Medieval map makers drew sea monsters where driftwood accumulated early Yelp reviews for treacherous waters. Bioluminescence flares offshore, neon blue constellations birthed by agitated plankton. The plank glows faintly, photogenic decay hiding its termite evictions. Athenian monks carved driftwood into storm middle fingers hurled at thunderclouds. Dawn's first blush seeps eastward, peach juice staining the horizon's linen. You snap a splinter off the plank, its resin weeping amber tears. 19th century Naples had driftwood bonfires on Lazarus Saturday, pyres smelling of sanctity and salmonella. The sea sighs, a mother reconciling with her problem child. Foam slicks the plank's surface, bubbles popping like the ambitions of Icarus. Carthage's driftwood stockpile burned during the Third Punic War, Scipio's marshmallows optional. Your shadow stretches, stilt-legged impostor, mocking your sleep-deprived sway. Salt crystallizes on your lips, ocean's parting gift to the parched. 17th century sailors stuffed driftwood in their mattresses, predecessors to memory foam and chronic back pain. A tern spears a fish, winged gladiator scoring takeout. The plank shifts, its hollow core whispering of forest canopies long atomized. Maya traders rode river currents atop driftwood rafts, extreme sports with a sacrificial twist. Gulls bicker over a mussel-feathered carens, disputing the dress code. You trace a worm's labyrinthine path, retirement community for maritime termites. The Codex Calixtinus mentions singing driftwood near Santiago, pilgrim karaoke, or tinnitus from too much censer smoke. Sunlight warms the plank's belly, honeyed rays buttering its sores. Blisters of sap ooze, conifer blood turned maritime amber. Certain Pacific cultures viewed driftwood as ancestor bones, which explains the awkward family reunions during tsunamis. Your legs tense, kneecap symphonies tuning up for tomorrow's regrets. The plank surrenders to the tide, arthritic dowager returning to her liquid rest. Venice's first foundations clutched driftwood like rosary beads, architectural Hail Marys against the sea's mood swings. Wind plucks at your tunic, breezy paparazzi, demanding unflattering angles. A child's carved initial winks from the wood, Alpha for anonymous, Delta for drowning victim, Mu for misplaced hope. 4th century hermits built driftwood shrines to Saint Elmo, fire, hazard tributes to the sizzle before the storm. The plank vanishes beneath a wave, handless widow curtsying into the depths. Dawn bleeds across the beach pink tourniquet on night's wounded edge. Shadows deepen between the vines, each grape cluster a pendant catching dusk's last gold. Your sand-crusted soles sink into loam, soil memorizing the shape of your arches. Roman vineyards timed harvests by the star spica, celestial alarm clock for tipsy astrologers. A grape bursts underfoot, its juice webbing your toes with violet glue. Night harvesters once sang hymns to Dionysus, lyrics slurring as fermentation vapors rose. 19th century Missourians used grape must as wallpaper paste, a trend as sticky as its demise. You pluck a berry, its skin taut as a drumhead. The pulp glows faintly, bioluminescence, or moonlight's cheap parlor trick. Byzantine winemakers buried amphorae with crossed fingers, sacrificing pinky toes to prevent vinegar births. The crush begins, bare feet churning fruit into liquid starlight. Each squelch echoes off terraced hills, nature's ASMR track with hints of athlete's foot. Historians still argue whether terraced vineyards prevented erosion or just made Pharisees feel superior about their calf muscles. Your elbows brush leaves fuzzy as moth wings, phosphorescent pollen dusting your sleeves. A scarab beetle helicopters past, drunk on overripe Merlot. Minoan frescoes show grape-treading athletes, ancient CrossFit with a wine and cheese reward system. The vat exhales carbon dioxide lazing upward like invisible jellyfish. You inhale lungs filling with the ghost of 100 summers. Victorian doctors prescribed claret baths for melancholy rich people, soup with a side of existential dread. Moonlight glances off bronze pruning hooks, tools pitted by centuries of desperate prayers. Your palm grips a handle, its patina whispering of blisters healed and reopened. Certain Aztec codices depict grapes as wept from bloodshot gods. Divine allergies, or pre-Columbian bartending secrets. A dove coos, its call muffled by grape, must thickening the air. Workers' laughter ripples, a sound older than the Egyptian king's tax audits. 18th century French prisoners demanded wine rations, arguing it was cheaper than guillotine maintenance. Your thumbnail traces a vine's spiraled growth, green geometry, defying gravity and sense. Sap beads, resinous dewdrops clinging like unpaid interns. Homeric hymns describe Dionysus inventing hangovers first, safety net for his more enthusiastic worshippers. The vat's rim sweats, droplets threading down like Merlot tears. You skim foam with a cypress ladle, its grain patterned by forgotten droughts. Neo-Babylonian tablets list vineyard curses targeting grape thieves. Ancient Yelp reviews etched in cuneiform. Silvery filaments drift overhead, spider silk rigging for drunken stars. A bat plucks moths from the haze, furry dive bomber with echolocation coupons. Tudor England dyed cheap wine with elderberries, C-list celebrities faking pedigree. Your knees crack rising, biological Morse code signaling imminent mutiny. The mash clings, a gruel of seeds and shattered skins. Medieval Moldavians buried nobles in wine barrels, final vintage, starring the deceased's earthy notes. A drunk cicada zigzags, apricot wings clipping your ear. Darkened hills shimmer the vineyard, breathing through a million stomata. The Code of Hammurabi set wine prices in barley units, Bronze Age, sommeliers with stone tablets as wine lists. You lick sticky fingers, sweetness undercut by tannic bitterness. The taste lingers, an argument between sugar and spite. Ottoman tax collectors measured vineyards by how many donkeys could graze between rows. Bureaucratic logic lost to sober minds. Torches gutter, flames low-balling their enthusiasm for night shifts. Embers spiral, fireflies cosplaying as escaped sparks. Hellenistic poets compared grape harvests to lovemaking awkward imagery. Even after 3 amphorae of retsina, the last grapes tumble into the press, their fate sealed by splintered wood. Shadows pool, indigo ink seeping across the valley. 17th century nuns fermented communion wine with added honey, holy loophole for the teetotaler's exception. Your spine molds to a twisted olive trunk, improvised backrest for the bone-tired. Stars wheel celestial fruit, ripening beyond reach. Pre-Incan quipus allegedly recorded grape yields, naughty spreadsheets lost to thirsty conquistadors. A nightjar's trill stitches darkness to deeper darkness. You close your eyes, retinas burning with the afterimage of crushed light. The breeze tugs your hair, a playful auntie insisting you stay for thirds. Cypress needles hiss, green static whispering of salt-rusted hulls slicing through moonlit waves. Phoenician traders navigated by starlight, their charts inked with sheep's blood, and Polaris's stubborn flicker. Your neck prickles, night air thick with brine and crushed thyme. Something flutters against your shin, a tattered scrap clinging like barnacle etiquette. Scholars found onion skins in Carthaginian shipwrecks, decades debated proof of sail repairs or really bad galley leftovers. A gust lifts your tunic's hem, impertinent librarian flipping pages. You catch whispers of cedar pitch and fish, glue, ghostly supplies from a vessel sunk when woolly mammoths were still a recent embarrassment. Historians still argue whether Phoenician ships reached the Americas. Their evidence, mostly cocktail napkins, doodled with Vinland, LOL. Stars blink through branches, celestial buoys marking submerged trade routes. Your toes curl, cool sand remembering trireme keels that scraped these shores clean. That tang in the air. 9 parts sea spray, 1 part fermented murex snail dye vats, ancient couture sweatsops, reeking of royal purple and regret. Moonlight glints off invisible rigging, no-seum threads binding mast to myth. You taste figs stolen from coastal orchards, sweetness cut with the metallic aftertaste of maritime insurance fraud. Minoan frescoes show dolphins herding tuna, proto-influencers curating seafood platters for Bronze Age foodies. The wind shifts, carrying a donkey's indignant bray from upslope. Grape leaves ripple green flags, surrendering to Zephyrus's whims. A scroll fragment found near Tyre mentions sky cloth sails, either poetic license or the Mediterranean's first disastrous hot air balloon experiment. Your heel grinds a shard, pottery's sharp punctuation in soil's run-on sentence. It winks blue, perhaps Cleopatra's sippy cup, or a fermented herring, jugs dignified retirement. Ottoman sailors believed biting coins tested wind direction. A fiscal approach to meteorology with mixed success rates. Palm fronds clatter nature's dice roll, deciding your next step. Waves boom below, Poseidon's snore vibrating through limestone cliffs. That sticky resin on your elbow could be amber trapping prehistory's dumbest mosquito. Or just Dionysus's vintners overdoing the pine tar. The gale stiffens, a demanding maestro conducting owl hoots and mast creaks. You glimpse phosphorescence in the bay, planktonic rave, outshining Phoenicia's signature lanterns. 18th century pirates demanded wine as tribute, proof that workplace benefits trump morality every time. Silk brushes your cheek, a spider's forgotten hammock or escapee from a sunken Silk Road barge. Your lungs burn, inhaling centuries of fish sauce fumes trapped in sea caves. Babylonian horoscopes warned merchants about sour winds. Astrological food safety inspections written in comet trails. A night heron croaks, its call echoing through twin harbors carved in the rock. You trace weathered carvings, Phoenician graffiti, boasting about best figs east of Gibraltar, fight me. Tudor wine, merchants smuggled grapes in hollowed Bibles, theological loopholes with a nice oaky finish. The wind dies, sudden as a snoozed lyre player mid-ballad. Static lingers, ozone and cobalt mingling on your tongue. Marseille, founding charter, allegedly included wine-tasting notes, urban planning, inspired by a really good Syrah. Warmth radiates from a sun-warmed boulder, days leftovers, huddling against star-chilled air. You press your spine to stone, feeling quartz veins pulse like drunk glowworms. Roman senators banned shipbuilders from drinking at dawn, defensive measure against triremes designed with party ramps. Moonbeams ladder the bay celestial gangplanks for invisible merchants. A crab side-eyes you, scuttling backward through time's wet sand. Carbon-dated olive pits prove traders hit Malta pre-wheel's invention. A crunchy GPS trail, your eyelids droop, the breeze now a shushing librarian shelving chaos. Waves untangle your thoughts, each crest a lullaby in Phoenician's lost dialect. One final gust plucks a strand of hair, Zephyrus pocketing payment for stories half heard. Moonlit cracks vein limestone columns, your shadow pooling, where priests once measured the heavens with knotted cords. The air smells of crushed oregano, and the ghost of myrrh rubbed smooth by a million thumbprints. Athenian temples kept sacred snakes, rodent control, with divine retirement plans. A fallen capital blocks your path. Its acanthus leaves now, sheltering scorpions drunk on moonlight. Your sandal scritches a mosaic fragment, Emperor Hadrian's beard, pixelated into terracotta shards. Restorers found medieval goat bones wedged in Ephesus. Columns, either repairs or really committed performance art. You step over a column drum, still warm from day's heat, stone pancakes on a celestial griddle, moonbeams spotlight, an altar's stain leftover wine offering. Or that time, a novice confused chalice with chamber pot. Historians still argue whether temple incense was ancient aromatherapy or just smoke screens for priestly napping. Cicadas thrum through fluted pillars, nature playing the world's windiest pan flute. A bat swoops, wingtip grazing your ear in a move Athenians would have called bad omen tinder. Delphi's oracle reportedly hallucinated from ethylene gas, charismatic leadership via geologic flatulence. Your palm meets a carved grapevine, centuries of grime filling each dent and whorl. It hums, or maybe that's your blood echoing in marble canyons. Workers sneaked doodles into temple foundations. A cocky Diodorus was here, beneath 6 tons of frieze. Moonlight glints off something half-buried, a bronze coin stamped with Poseidon's grumpiest side-eye. You pocket it, down payment for crossing the Lethe later. Minoan priests wore hollow bull masks, Bronze Age Daft Punk with better acoustics. Shadows pool in the cella, the inner chamber exhaling air older than Roman plumbing. Your toes curl on icy marble, treadmill, for initiates dancing their way to enlightenment. A papyrus lists temple guards bribed with 4 figs, honeycomb, and one seductive wink. A column's missing chunk reveals animal bones mortared inside, sacrificial confetti, or ancient rebar. Night might spiral in your torch's wake, like miniature, frenzied worshippers. The Parthenon's east pediment hides a carved olive branch, Athena's middle finger to Poseidon's salty tears. Your tunic snags on a jagged stoa step, fashion critique from the ruins. Above, an owl shifts its weight, judging your life choices since adolescence. Temple inventories included incense shovel, lost, and divine inspiration, sold separately. Breath fogs against a herm's weathered face, its once leering features eroded into cosmic indifference. You trace a chip, maybe, where some drunk Spartan tried to high-five Hermes during finals week. Archaeologists debate if sacred springs were holy sites or just ancient tourist traps with good PR. 3 broken amphorae guard a mouse hole, Dionysus's smallest devotees staging a coup. Wine-dark stains wept the floor, spilled libations, mapping constellations only drunkards could name. Delos Island for bad births and deaths on its sacred ground, classic HOA overreach. A gecko freezes mid-crawl, living decoration, echoing temple friezes. Perfect stillness. The moon snuffs itself behind clouds, sudden as a priest, catching you mimicking his duck walk. Night blooming Sirius petals unfurl, their vanilla scent almost hiding the latrine ditches. Ode to antiquity. Wind whistles through a triglyph, stone honeycomb, hosting neither bees nor answers. You press your forehead to cool marble, the same spot where 1,000 brows furrowed over ritual cheat sheets. Ephesus, temple of Artemis, had central heating, pampered deities demanding spa days. Stars prick the sky's black hide, celestial nails keeping the firmament from crashing down. Your knees fold, marble grit biting, like sacred communion wafers gone rogue. The final jokes on the architect's columns, perfectly aligned to frame dawn's first blush. And absolutely zero coffee stations. Your hand brushes a sun-warmed amphora, amber resin still weeping from its cracked lip. Dionysus's fingerprints linger here, sticky imprints, inviting you to lick history's glue trap. Roman festivals used real leopards in processions, silk leashes, drunk handlers, at least 3 Senate debates about appropriate big cat vibes. A grape stem crumbles underfoot, its juice staining the earth like old blood. You inhale fermentation's breath, pricking your throat with promises of oblivion. Temples stored wine in dolphin-shaped vessels. Apparently oceanic mammals scream spirituality when you're 3 cups deep. Twilight pools in a ceremonial crater, its curved belly pregnant with stolen moonlight. Your reflection warps. Dionysus-approved funhouse mirror showing 9 versions of your sobriety dying. Historians still argue whether worshippers hallucinated from sacred brews or just really committed to the bit. A bee drags its drunken body across your sandal, wing beats slurring the Athenian national anthem. You crouch eye level with primrose roots crawling through mosaic satyrs. Initiation rites involved honey-covered children because nothing says divine ecstasy like toddler-sized fly traps. The wind shifts, your lungs fill with pumice and half-remembered dreams. Stones hum beneath you, reviving the bass line of dances lost to sobriety scripts. Minoan priestesses chewed ivy during rituals, nature's breath mints for hide the wine god shenanigans. Your heel grinds a pomegranate seed, ruby shards sparkling like broken temple glass. Night air thickens, pressing grape sweet against your teeth till enamel throbs. Frescoes show bulls wreathed in vines, proof that every cult needs a mascot with commitment issues. A moth grazes your cheek, powdered wings leaving constellations only the tipsy can decipher. You blink, and the stars unravel into Dionysus's smudged fingerprints. Some devotees slept in sacred wine presses, ancient waterbeds smelling of desperation and poor life choices. Moonlight slicks the olive, leaves their silvered edges, slicing shadows into manageable lies. Your tongue sticks, parched despite the vineyard's 100,000 thirsting mouths. Temples bred specially floppy-eared hounds, so even the dogs looked permanently smashed. 3 fireflies trace the path ahead, living asterisks, footnoting every bad decision you're about to make. The soil sighs, exhaling a century's worth of dropped grapes and dropped standards. Archaeologists found whole theater masks in fermentation pits, either ritual or someone's really elaborate drinking game. Your thumb finds a thumbprint in a clay lamp, size matching your own. The wick whispers, PSA, olive oil burns longer, but smells like God's frying pan. Mystery cults used poisoned wine during initiations, early door screening for who truly trusts the process. A fig bursts overhead, splattering pulp that clings like sacrificial aftershave. You tilt your chin, letting night cleanse what daylight judged too harshly. Sacred groves banned wearing purple not for piety, but because Phoenician dye merchants charged scandalous rates. The horizon blurs, vineyard rows dissolving into Assyrian scrollwork only drunk cartographers appreciate. Your knees bend, folding under the weight of grapes, yet unborn. Oracles interpreted wine sediment patterns, ancient drunkards insisting the dregs held more truth than the drink. Bats skim the wine-dark sea, dipping wingtips to write gossip only currents can translate. You smile, lips cracking like amphorae left too long in the kiln. Dionysus's final joke. His vineyards outlive every empire, every sober dawn, every whispered prayer for moderation. Sleep rises through your soul's hot, sweet, and utterly without mercy. Your heel sinks into soil, still warm from Apollo's misplaced kiss. Olive bark bites your palm rough as a philosopher's last argument. Branches creak overhead, a chorus of wooden joints tuning for night's orchestra. The wind plates through leaves, each whisper fraying the edge of wakefulness. You're leaning against a tree Theophrastus might have studied, that keen-eyed plant nerd who cataloged olive varieties while Athens crumbled. A fallen leaf spirals down, its silver underside flashing like a smuggled coin. You catch it, texture brittle as papyrus from Alexandria's lost annex. Some swear olive groves cured vertigo, patients clutching bark amulets while vomiting over sacred roots. The air smells of pressed gold. Those fat droop, bundles Romans taxed harder than common sense. Your nail digs into the trunk, sap bleeding translucent and bitter as a cynic's punchline. Moonlight slicks the gnarled roots, their arthritic twists mapping droughts Plato might have whined about. Initiation rites involved swallowing 7 olives, quickest way to learn divinity tastes like brined regret. Shadows pool where leaves refuse to flutter, stubborn as senators debating olive wreath thread counts. A nightjar's cry phrase the silence, sound looping like a skipped wax cylinder. You count heartbeats between its shrieks. 13, 20, 34. The Delphic oracle once prescribed olive ash for baldness, ancient answer to male vanity and kindling shortages. Your tongue finds a forgotten pit in your teeth, the ghost of last summer's harvest festival. Fruit glints overhead, black orbs bloated with stolen starlight. You pluck one, flesh bursting salt green fury across your palate. Temples bred trees with split trunks, so deities could exit vertically during particularly dull sermons. The horizon smears, cypress silhouettes dissolving into charcoal smudges on a drunk scribe's scroll. Wind riffles your hair, an invisible hand practicing forgotten braiding techniques. Soil shifts underfoot, alive with rootlets threading through Mycenaean pottery shards. Historians still argue whether sacred groves hosted lyre concerts or just really sad wind chimes. Your spine meets the trunk again, bark imprinting its genealogy lesson between your shoulder blades. Something crunches in the dark, a goat's midnight snack, or the sound of your resolve withering. Pressed flowers fall from the crooked branches, petals mummified into botanical confetti. Persephone's maidens wore olive leaf garters, allegedly. You inhale, lungs filling with the paradox of green things thriving in stone-dry earth. The moon snags on a twig, light warped into a dangling pendant only bats admire. Your eyelids flutter, each blink smearing the grove into Pompeian fresco pigments. Workers fermented olives in honeyed vinegar, sweetness to buffer the brutal tang of immortality's aftertaste. Stars pivot above their positions, debated by sailors, shepherds, and owls with commitment issues. A single ripe olive drops, thudding against your thigh like a misplaced punctuation mark. Juice seeps through linen, stains spreading like Sparta's influence on bad pottery designs. You let it bleed. Night's fingers pluck the last resistance from your muscles. Strings cut on a marionette made of attic dust. The grove hums vibration rising through soles, knees, ribs, a lullaby older than the Egyptian kings. Wine-stained wills. Dawn lingers somewhere beyond Naxos, a problem for the version of you that still believes in clocks. Wind combs the canopy one last time, leaves applauding in rustling greens. Your chin dips, surrendering to gravity's gentle mugging. The olive's song ends not with a chord, but the soft exhale of roots dreaming in perpetual twilight. Shadows bleed into the light, day's sharp edges dissolving like salt in warm broth. You blink once, twice, but the horizon refuses to clarify. Gold and indigo swirl, a painter's brush, dipped in both sunrise and midnight. Your foot nudges an amphora shard, its curve smooth as a hip bone weathering centuries. Some say Minoan's timed twilight by how many olive pits sank in water clocks. Mumbled math between sips, a gull cries, its wings slicing the haze where sea meets sky. You taste copper, or is it memory? The air thickens, lavender and brine wrestling for dominion over your nostrils. Workers hear once buried snail shells under vines, crunchy offerings for sweeter grapes or weirder wine. Historians still argue whether those spiral offerings pleased Dionysus or just confused local badgers. Your shadow stretches, then snaps back as if the sun changed its mind. Pebbles shift underfoot, whispering tales of merchant ships that sank carrying time-infused wax tablets. A finch's corpse lies near your toe, feathers fluffed in eternal defiance of gravity. They used to grind nightshade petals into ink, here writing love letters that doubled as homicide threats. Wind plucks at your tunic, fabric snapping like the sail of a ghost trireme. Something glints in the dirt, a Byzantine coin worn featureless by endless tides. You pocket it, counterfeit or not, a charm against modern daylight's nagging persistence. Fishermen claimed twilight masks hid sea monsters, but you're pretty sure they just hated working nights. The sea exhales, a sulfur sigh from vents where eels coil like cursive script. Your ankle itches, salted skin tightening like papyrus, left too near a fire. Look there, where waves fray into foam. They say a philosopher drowned here clutching a wine jug, debating whether bubbles constituted souls. Cicadas throttle their buzzsaw lullaby, nature's answer to Athenian traffic. You crouch, fingertips brushing a mosaic fragment, Bacchus's smirk preserved in tesserae. Bees drone past, their pollen sacs stuffed with stolen twilight. That broken column to your left, 3rd century gymnasium debris, or a very committed sundial enthusiast's mistake. Dew beads on a spider web, liquid amethysts, threading a trap for thrift store angels. Your lungs hitch, breathing in pollen older than the Nicene Creed. A bat zips overhead, Dracula's toddler on its first joyride. They fermented honey with time here, mead that allegedly cured goat-induced melancholy. Starlings swirl, a feathered tornado forgetting its migration script. You press a palm to your sternum, heartbeat sinking, with distant surf pound. That warm rock you're leaning against could be a temple altar or the world's most apathetic tortoise. Sailors painted phoenixes on tavern walls, here buying rounds until their wages rose from ashes. Moonflowers open petals unzipping the dark with botanical precision. You count them, 7, 11, 19 numbers dissolving like sugar in absinthe. The The Antikythera mechanism's cousin mite tracked these blooms, gears greased with dolphin oil and wishful thinking. A frog plops into a puddle amphorae imprint, becoming a transient pond. Your knees creak, joining the chorus of unstable architecture and middle-aged insects. Pressed against the cliffside, limestone deposits feel like frozen sponge cake that flicker offshore. A fishing boat, or Hesiod's ghost, revising his shipping forecasts. They mixed crushed pearls into plaster here, watch it sparkle under torchlight like drunk constellations. A fish leaps, silver curve, mocking gravity's mediocre work ethic. You yawn, jaw cracking like a trireme's mast in a squall. Salt crusts your lips, taste of Atlantean cocktail parties and emergency ration barrels. Ever notice how waves shush you? Bossy bastards, even in the Bronze Age. The last star surrenders, dawn's blush seeping through night's sieve. You squint, retinal burn, painting temporary sunspots on the scenery. Sand grinds between your toes, each grain a miniature stoic preaching detachment. That seaweed clump ahead could cradle a siren's napkin ring, or just yesterday's lunch. Breeze dies sudden as a dropped lyre mid-epic. Your shadow finally stills, stretched thin as democracy's patience with Alcibiades. A single myrtle berry rolls downhill, destiny unknown, but determined. They used to stuff mattresses with dried seagrass here, scratchy slumber for itchy philosophers. Light warms your neck, Apollo's fingers testing the waters of your resolve. You exhale, releasing the night like a borrowed drachma. The sea inhales your reflection, one less ripple in its wine-dark ledger. Embers pop like knuckle cracks in a silent amphitheater, their heat a low ache in your ribs. You kneel, blister close, as flames twist into shapes no sober potter would attempt. A resinous smoke stings your nostrils, pine and myrrh with a top note of singed goat hair. They burned olive wood here, sacred to Athena, feeding temple fires that outlasted empires. The keeper stirs the coals with a rod forged from 3 melted down swords, X marks on the handle counting generations. Ash drifts upward, constellation, confetti for gods who prefer their parties muted. That charred lump to your left might been bread or Nero's last attempt at poetry. Firelight licks a fresco fragment, a chariot race, frozen mid-wheelie. Historians still argue whether eternal flames used natural gas vents or just slaves with excellent bladder control. You blink, the painted horses seem to gallop backward, smoke rewriting history in real time. A spark lands on your wrist, its bite less painful than yesterday's sunburn. You wonder how many Alexandrian librarians got fired for sneezing near scrolls. The keeper chuckles, or maybe it's the wind whistling through his missing molars. His cloak reeks of brine and stories. Everyone pretends not to believe. Flames spit a name, your name, but it dissolves before you're sure. Phoenician traders swore ember patterns predicted monsoon winds, and which wives would poison their husbands. You count 99 sparks, each a tiny rebellion against the dark. The 100th lingers, a reluctant star refusing to die. Heat warps the air, horizon bending, like a lyre string plucked by drunk Eros. Your shadow dances on the cliffside, a puppet show for bored seagulls. That sizzle, dry seaweed surrendering to thermodynamics, or Poseidon's failed attempt at Morse code. The keeper feeds the fire, a scroll fragment, Euripides' stage directions for a play about sentient otters. Smoldering papyrus smells like lost bets and librarians' tears. Anecdotes claim Cleopatra's masseuse used flame-tempered oils, but you're not rubbing that on your back. Coals shift, revealing a figurine melted beyond recognition. Athena's owl, Eros's missing arrow tip. Your eyelids sag, smoke weaving coronas around the keeper's head. They used to toss copper coins into vigil fires here, tiny suns swallowed by bigger suns. Wind gusts, ember moths swirl toward the sea. You track one until it drowns in moonlit waves. The keeper mumbles about Carthaginian birthday candles, wax infused with loser gladiators' sweat. Your pinky brushes a hot stone, ownership debated by 5 museums and a seagull. Flames dim, the keeper pokes them awake like a professor nudging a dozing student. Ash coats your tongue, a bitter communion wafer for non-believers. That charred olive pit by your knee could have fueled Heron's steam engine if he'd skipped the ouzo. Heat blisters the air, a drunkard's breath against your cheek. You unstick your tunic from sweat-slick skin, fabric peeling like a reluctant band-aid. They say Nero auctioned fire ashes as celebrity face powder patented Phoenix Youth. Formula, the keeper coughs, a sound like pottery shards in a biscuit tin. His sandal soles flap, glue surrendered to endless hours of flame watching. You imagine him as a child, tending his first campfire with marshmallows and existential dread. Embers die one by one, extinguished sighs swallowed by the tide. The last coal pulses, a heartbeat mirroring your own arrhythmic exhaustion. Historians agree on exactly nothing about pyromancy, except that everyone lied about their success rates. And cold creeps in, replacing flame stories with goosebumps and vague regrets. You stand knees, protesting like rusty drawbridges. The keeper vanishes, ghost, hallucination. Underpaid intern named Steve. Dawn's first rays strike the dead fire, turning ash into fool's gold. Your shadow stretches inland, a charcoal smear, heading toward breakfast and awkward questions. One ember survives, glowing in the keeper's abandoned footprint. You walk away, each step pressing his heat deeper into the cooling earth. Salt cakes your soles as the surf drags itself backward, each grain grinding like a tiny hourglass in reverse. You wade through foam scraps, Poseidon's failed attempt at shaving cream. The brine stings that blister from the keeper's fire, a Venn diagram of poor life choices. They traded salt here once, 8 pounds of it for a Syrian slave back when Rome's legions considered sweating a currency. A hermit crab commandeers an amphora shard near your toe, Mediterranean real estate at its most desperate. Your left foot sinks deeper, sand claiming you acre by silent acre. They say Cleopatra bathed in ass's milk, but her foot masseurs swore by Dead Sea brine. You make a mental note never to trust ancient Yelp reviews. Waves retreat like shy partygoers spotting a tax collector. Moonlight turns wet sand into a shattered mirror, each piece reflecting a different half-truth. Historians still argue whether the temple of Poseidon's sea wall was a breakwater or a really passive-aggressive fence. You squint, counting 87 steps to the tide line's black ribbon. Something glints in the muck, a coin so corroded even metal detectors would ghost it. Your thumbnail scrapes off barnacle crust. Hadrian's weathered profile emerges like a botched plastic surgery. Bet he never imagined becoming a paperweight for sea slugs. Cold seeps through your tunic, the kind that clings like a mother-in-law's backhanded compliment. You taste iodine and regret breakfasts, fish sauce, omelet, staging a comeback. Carthaginian sailors wore seaweed socks for luck, though maritime success rates suggest they should have invested in cotton blends instead. A distant bell buoy clangs, offbeat metronome for the apathetic tide. Your big toe unearths a clay token etched with a grinning squid. Auction houses would call it Minoan rare. Garage sales prefer weird old ashtray. The squid's tentacles swirl hypnotic. Or maybe you're just oxygen deprived from holding your breath between waves. Foam traces lace your calves like failed tattoo ideas. You recall those Pythagorean cultists who swore the sea's hiss was the world's first Spotify playlist. Their greatest hit, a single note sustained for 7 years. Critics called it ambient pretension. A cormorant dive bombs the shallows, emerging empty-beaked and judging you silently. Its feathers gleam all slick black, nature's passive-aggressive mood ring. They used to pay ferrymen in salted eels here, a fact that explains so much about ancient labor disputes. Your heel hits a submerged tile slick with biofilm and questionable life choices. The mosaic fragment shows Dionysus, or possibly a drunk goat mid-karaoke. 17 barnacles crust his forehead, tiny party hats for a deity who'd appreciate the gesture. Wind plucks at your soaked hem, AED machine for a pulse you're not sure you want. That seaweed strand around your ankle could be kelp, could be Neptune's abandoned friendship bracelet. Either way, it's not the kind of jewelry that gets you dinner dates. Shallows swirl silver, minnows fleeing a predator you hope isn't leg-shaped. The Phoenician fish sauce vats near here once leaked for decades, creating a stench Atlas would have shrugged at. You gag politely. Etiquette matters, even when alone with bioluminescent plankton. Salt crystallizes on your arms, a geology project your skin never volunteered for. You lick a wrist, flavor profile says, regret with a hint of megalodon pee. Minoan snorkelers harvested sea sponges with wicker baskets, a career path OSHA definitely would have nixed. Clouds scalp the moon, Etsy's idea of goth lace curtains. Your footprints dissolve behind you, autobiography written in vanishing ink. Archaeologists found a Homeric hymn scrawled inside a conch shell. Here, poetry's answer to message in a bottle spam. A wave slaps your shin, the ocean's way of saying, tag, you're it. You pivot toward shore, knees creaking like a galley rower's playlist. That shadow darting offshore. Dolphin, shark, Zeus testing a terrible Tinder bio. Best not to dwell. Grit infiltrates your sandals. Personal exfoliation session courtesy of Mother Nature's spite. You spot a fishing net tangled with amphora handles. Mediterranean recycling at its most bleak. They used to punish perjury by making liars swallow brine-soaked bread, a snack as effective as it is crunchy. Moonlight bleaches the coast, a long exposure photo left in developer too long. Your toes curl in sludge that's 1/3 sand, 2/3 expired civilizations. Ever notice how ruins look better by night? It's the eyeliner of architecture. Silence thickens, the kind that rings louder than Dionysus's after-party. You count 73 waves before realizing you've lost track of 0. A fishing boat light blinks Morse code for go home, idiot. Dawn's first smear bleeds indigo into the horizon, sky's mandatory PowerPoint transition. You turn inland, salt crust crackling like a standing ovation for your terrible decisions. The sea keeps retreating, taking its secrets and your dignity to deeper waters. Cicadas throttle the scrublands, 1,000 sewing machines gone feral. Their buzz syncs with your pulse, nature's worst attempt at a meditation app. You kneel in brittle grass, knee meeting a terracotta shard older than your ancestors' bad decisions. Byzantine winemakers buried these by the acre, their version of 5-star Yelp reviews for Dionysus. Heat clings like a stage 5 clinger, fabric plastered to your spine. A lizard darts over your sandal, tiny scales, catching the light like disco ball regret. They used cicada shells as ancient bedtime rattles, parenting hack, or sleep deprivation madness. You pocket a husk, free souvenir from history's clearance rack. Dust paints your throat, equal parts dead pharaoh and rental car AC filter. The loom's ghost hums in your ears, warp threads stretched taut across the horizon. Archaeologists found a Minoan textile workshop here, threads dyed with crushed murex and poor life choices, their signature color, regret mauve. Shadows crumble like shortbread cookies under noon's dental drill. You trace a chariot groove in the bedrock, Uber's first 5-star driver. Cicadas crescendo, sound waves thrumming your sternum like a subwoofer at a rave. Historians still argue whether temple carvings show ritual looms or particularly organized spiderwebs. A beetle drags a petal twice its size, overachiever fueling your imposter syndrome. Your canteen sloshes warm water, liquid disappointment marinating yesterday's poor planning. Aqueduct engineers worshipped here, praying to the god of please, don't let this crack widen. Their shrines featured tiny lead pipes, ancient duct tape for the soul. Light bleaches the hills, God's own interrogator lamp. You squint at the valley below vineyards, reduced to a green rash on Gaia's shin. Local legends claim weavers spun moonlight into bridal veils here, the original influencers hustling celestial merch. Heat shimmers rise, desert's answer to mirage OnlyFans. Your shadow pools like spilled ink, a Rorschach test, shouting you're dehydrated. Farmers here measured time by cicada molds, because who needs sundials when you've got arthropod skincare routines? A thorn snags your hem, Persephone's passive-aggressive RSVP to your stroll. You yank free, fabric parting with the enthusiasm of a celibate honeymoon. That weird tingle in your palms, probably sunstroke, possibly the loom goddess judging your life choices. Ants march across your dropped fig, tiny Black Friday shoppers on a sugar bender. You count 73 workers, productivity porn at its most relentless. The Byzantines ground cicadas into glue, patent-pending recipe for sticking it to your enemies. Reviewers called it crunchy. Silence drops like a theater curtain when the cicadas pause. Your ears ring with absence, auditory hangover from nature's rave. Excavators found a loom weight engraved with alpha phi epsilon zeta, either a weaver's initials or ancient Greek for why am I awake. A hot wind unspools your sweat, distilled regret in every droplet. You collapse under an olive tree's skeletal shade, bark pressing constellations into your back. They used to weave funeral shrouds here at midnight, third shift gig economy, meets guilt tripping Hades, sunlight needles through leaves, Swiss cheese luminescence stabbing your retinas. Your tongue sticks to the roof of your mouth, oral Velcro failure. The Uluburan shipwreck carried 17 loom parts proof that Bronze Age traders prioritized textiles over sanity. A scorpion side-eyes you from a rock ambience coordinator for this existential crisis. You freeze mid-snack, fig jam glistening like amateur murder evidence. Women spun thread while walking these paths, multitasking mastered millennia before podcasts ruined productivity culture. Shadows stretch, sundials reminder you've accomplished nothing today. Cicadas reboot their cacophony, sound so thick you could spread it on toast. Workers here sang weaving hymns to Artemis, songs so boring they made warp speed feel sluggish. The amphorae's cool, clay presses into your palm, a sensation older than Pythagoras and his triangle obsession. Your thumb traces a spiral near the rim, some potter's fingerprint fossilized in the curve. Rainwater sloshes inside leftovers from a storm that predates your last decent haircut. Fun fact: amphorae like this hauled 80% of the Mediterranean's wine, oil, and existential crises. You tilted liquid glugs like a bored god clearing their throat. The smell hits: wet earth, oxidized copper, and the ghost of rosemary sprigs. A beetle paddles across the surface, tiny oarsmen in a ceramic ocean. Workers used to mark these jars with symbols for "drink me now," or "this vintage causes visions." Shadows pool at the base, molasses hour crawling up your ankles. Time's syrup clogs the air, each breath feels poured through honeycomb. A spider claims the neck, spinning silk in geometric patterns that humble Euclid. Archaeologists once found 89 mouse skeletons in a single amphora, either ancient rodent heirloom or really lazy pantry security. Light bleeds through the clay, amber translucence, revealing sediment swirling like storm systems. You count 34 grape pips settling at the bottom, maybe Dionysus's spreadsheet of debauchery. Your forearm tenses under the weight, suddenly aware your gym membership expired around the Bronze Age collapse. A crack zigzags down the side, lightning bolt frozen mid-strike. Rain taps the outer surface, Morse code from cloud dwellers sick of your pacing. Historians still argue whether handle inscriptions were workshop trademarks or wine-fueled doodles. Consensus, ancient equivalent of tagging a bathroom stall. Dew seeps through your sleeve, elbow meeting dampness as you lower the vessel. The base sinks into mud, succubus suction, defying basic physics. You imagine some Minoan merchant haggling over this very jar. Does it come in midlife crisis terracotta? Wind riffles your hair, auditioning for a shampoo commercial nobody asked for. Clay grit sticks to your lip, third worst exfoliant you've accidentally consumed today. 37 bees orbit the rim, wing beats syncing with the pulse in your temples. Ravens took a single sip of fermented fig wine, then kamikaze dived into palace walls. Your spine molds to the slope of a limestone outcrop, nature's lazy boy with worse lumbar support. The amphora's shadow stretches, sundial accusing you of ignoring circadian rhythms. 5 snails ascend the side, escargot pilgrimage to an unimpressive shrine. Dusk licks the horizon god's tongue, dragging across a popsicle world. Liquid shadows fill the jar's belly, inky, infinite, refusing to reflect your face. You half expect a genie, or at least a strongly worded complaint from the local pottery guild. A distant donkey brays, pitch matching your third grade recorder solo. Frogs croak a bass line under cicada static, woodland jam band, minus the talent. Your pinky dips into the water, ripples rewriting constellations only drunk astronomers could name. Cold climbs your wrist, slow ivy claiming a trellis of veins. The amphora hums, subsonic vibes from clay that witnessed the Titanic's maiden voyage. You count 8 heartbeats, 11 breaths, 1 questionable life decision, all metered by the jar's porous skin. Stars prick the sky, needles embroidering the void with silver thread. A fish leaps in the bay, splash echoing like a dropped amphora in Atlantis's basement. The moon licks the jar's rim, ceramic blushing under celestial attention. Your eyelids droop, gravity winning its petty feud with consciousness. Clay cools your cheek, accidental faceplint on a 30-century-old juice box. Somewhere, a potter spins their wheel eternal, throws shaping clay, time, and this exact moment of surrender. Lotus petals cling to your ankles, their waxy sheen glinting like wet phone screens. Each step through the obsidian pond sends ripples fracturing the moon's reflection. Shattered silver knitting itself back together with spiteful precision. Scholars confirm ancient priests floated lotus garlands during the Est festival, though none mention the blisters from 3 hours of flower tying. A blossom brushes your wrist, cold silk against summer-warm skin. Its scent wraps you jasmine and fresh-cut cucumber with a vinegar kick. You half expect a QR code etched into the petals, sponsored Serenity TM courtesy of the Ptolemaic dynasty. Fun fact: a lotus seed sprouted after snoozing in clay for 1,500 years. Crisis, mode 300 BCE, called They Want Their Germination Skills Back. Water striders skate between blooms, their shadows long-legged hieroglyphs plotting your demise. The pond's edge melts into darkness, a black hole with better interior design. Historians still argue whether lotus essence was for spiritual journeys or just knockoff Chanel No. 5. The jury's out, but Cleopatra, that drama queen of the Nile, allegedly bathed in the stuff. Your knee bumps a submerged stone, smooth as a pharaoh's Botoxed forehead. Mud squelches between toes, nature's spa treatment. If spas were 78% frog spawn, 7 fireflies orbit your head, biorhythmic rave, in desperate need of a DJ. A beetle glides past on a lily pad, tiny gondolier muttering TripAdvisor reviews in Phoenician. Moonlight lacquers the water, epoxy poured by a caffeinated deity. You count 93 petals, within reach 92, too many for responsible decision-making. A fish breaches the surface, its scales flash codes only insomniac satellites could decipher. That one coworker who meditates, but still rage quits. Zoom calls would combust here in the best way. Coolness climbs your calves, liquid carbonite freezing you mid-stride. The silence isn't silent. It thrums with cricket arrhythmias and photosynthetic gossip. Place your palm flat on the water, surface tension holds like cellophane over leftover baklava. 10 ripples race outward, the pond's version of a group chat debating your life choices. A petal sticks to your earlobe, floral Bluetooth earbud streaming ambient whale songs. Roots coil around submerged statues, presumably of gods who ghosted their worshippers. Your shadow stretches east, Picasso-esque elongation that questions your life's cheese intake. Archaeologists once found 19 bronze lotuses in Hadrian's Pool. Turns out even emperors needed Pinterest fails. Breath fogs the air, novelty vape cloud without the menthol regret. Stars smudge above, light pollutions, elderly cousins forgetting their own names. You scoop water, liquid obsidian leaking through fingers, like a failed supervillain origin story. That rash you got from all-natural sunscreen in Crete. This pond's pH balance mocks it. Frogs launch a belching chorus, bathroom acoustics at a kombucha convention. Your pulse sinks to their rhythm, a rhythmic jazz that kill a metronome. 23 lotuses nod in unison, floral bobbleheads cheering your impending faceplint into enlightenment. A dragonfly pauses on your shoulder, helicopter parent judging your life's flight path. Dew beads on your nostrils, uninvited guests crashing a Zen meditation retreat. The scent sharpens, stinging nettles hiding in a field of bouquets. You step onto a half-sunk plinth, toe stubbing a dedication to Isis, Nut, and Steve carving error. Probably. Your left sock sags, soggy conspirator plotting trench foot's comeback tour. Water striders skitter from your shadow, messengers fleeing a bad Yelp review. You pluck a lotus bud, its layers peel like sunburned skin after a Minoan beach day. Light bleeds through the petals, X-ray revealing nectar veins and abandoned aphid condos. 3 mosquitoes rise in formation, Belist vampires debating your blood's sommelier notes. The pond exhales, hydrogen sulfide and Chanel lotus fusion scent. Mud slurps at your heels, quicksand's introverted cousin who hates parties. You tilt your head back, constellations shimmer like a light, bright, abandoned mid-project. Cleopatra's 5th grade science fair volcano erupted here. Or maybe that's just your pulse in your eardrums. Something brushes your foot, catfish, or aquatic sleep paralysis demon. You freeze, mutual embarrassment, hanging thicker than Athenian smog. Ripples distort your reflection, funhouse mirror auditioning for your next therapy session. 7 breaths, 8, 9, until the pond stills, revealing a face younger, older, borrowed, blue. Stars dip toward the horizon, drunken waiters clearing celestial tables. Your shirt clings, damp map of poor life choices and excellent hydration. A night heron croaks, judgmental gargoyle, questioning your life's biodynamic vineyard phase. Petals spiral downward, slow motion, confetti at the world's most apathetic parade. Plant your souls on solid earth, moss-squelching victory, cheers beneath. The pond shrinks behind you, liquid pupil narrowing to a slit. Hold the lotus against your sternum. Its stem leaks milky defiance down your shirt. 39 fireflies blink Morse code, mostly asterisks, correcting your life's Yelp review. Dawn's first bruise purples the east, heliophobes retreating to their thread count caves. You pocket a seed pod, future garnish for salads you'll never plate. The path ahead gleams, quartz veins pulsing with stolen moonlight. Historians still argue whether lotus dreams were prophecies or just bad mezcal. Bonus points. Your socks squelch the answer with every step. Your heels grind quartz into the earth, crumbs of stubborn moonlight, refusing dawn's eviction. Notice calloused fingers close around yours, a handshake with the land itself. The gardener's palms rasp like papyrus scrolls, each crease packed with 40 Nile floods and 99 harvests. You've heard of kings entombed with golden chariots, but Steve here, his coffin's definitely getting a well-oiled shovel. His thumbs press into your wrist, knobbed knuckles, mapping the pulse of buried roots. Dirt cascades from his sleeves, archives of seasons past. 18 shades of soil cling to him. Terracotta ochre, the black silt that once fed Pharaoh's melon patches. Remember those irrigation ditches we mocked in 10th grade history? This guy dug their great-great-great-granddaddy with a snail shell scoop. A fingernail split and yellowed traces the lifeline on your palm. It's less fortune told and more geological survey. His laugh rumbles up through grapevines, stone grinding against stone. Rumor says 3 Roman emperors hired him, then fired him for composting their prize roses. Honestly, anyone who mistakes mulch for rebellion can't be trusted with a pruning shear. He kneels, joints popping like olive pits under a boot. You mimic him, knees meeting soil still warm from yesterday's sun. His hands move not digging, but unearthing. 11 earthworms flee the scene, disgruntled commuters late for their underground shuttle. Crumbled pottery glints in the furrows, blue-green fragments of a wine jug Cleopatra's, made probably dropped mid-gossip. Rainwater pools in his cupped palms, liquid trembling, but never spilling. You've seen the shadows in hieroglyphs, wooden arms dipping like thirsty cranes. His versions simpler skin and patience, and the tilt of a wrist. One droplet escapes. It beads on a carrot top like a diamond on a toddler's crayon crown. He presses a clod into your grip. It's not dirt anymore, it's crumbled time. You sift through shards of last century's almond shells, a beetle wing, a copper coin, green as envy. Historians still argue whether the Nile's tantrums dictated planting schedules, or if some scribe just hated calendar math. Either way, this soil's resume includes 16 dynasties and one regrettable camel dung fertilizer phase. The gardener pulls a fig from his satchel, fruit split open, flesh gleaming. You take it, stickiness blooming across your palm. A honeybee lands on your thumb, striped realtor scouting for summer homes. His whetstone rasps against a trowel. Midnight snack, ASMR, for insomniac archaeologists. That blistered hoopoe bird watching from the fig tree. Definitely judgmental about your composting skills. His fingers brush a rosemary bush, scent exploding like a gossip secret. Stems part to reveal a nest, speckled eggs, warm as fresh bread. 23 ants march across your ankle, tiny bureaucrats, auditing your dirt credentials. You half expect him to name each pebble, introduce you to the landlord earthworm, maybe bill you in pomegranate seeds. Light bleeds across the vineyard, dawn's insistence, wrapped in peach gauze. He stands dust, cascading from his tunic, like minutes from an hourglass. One palm rests on your shoulder, the weight of 7 generations' harvests. The other points east, where a clay jug full of sunrise waits beside a fig tree. Your shadow stretches long and thin over soil that that swallowed 100,000 footsteps. His hands return to the earth, sculpting silence into something that hums. The bee abandons your thumb for a dandelion clock, better benefits. You pocket a pebble, chipped edge fitting your thumbprint like a joke. The land won't explain. Wind fingers through the olive grove, carrying salt, myrrh, and a punchline from the Aegean. Blisters rise on your palm, not from labor, but the sheer density of growing things. The gardener's sleeves billow, sails patched, with 17 seasons worth of mended cloth. Historians love his irrigation canals, but you're betting on the blisters. Always bet on the blisters. Your palm cups the clay cask's belly, still warm from 40 days of subterranean gossip. Fermentation's primal burble rises through the earth, a drunkard's lullaby vibrating in your molars. You've read the frescoes in Tutankhamun's tomb, his wine jars labeled by Vineyard and vintner's tantrums. But this is vintage Dionysus, all unraveled restraint and sticky-fingered miracles. The gardener's shovel strikes flint, sparks kissing the cask's resin-sealed mouth. Pine tar oozes like crystallized honey, or that glue your cousin swore could fix his marriage. Ancient vintners lined amphorae with this gunk, part preservative, part dare to sober historians. Rumor claims Nero's last cup tasted like a lumberyard's scrap pile, but here, under the soil's velvet lung, the resin hums of wildfires and shipwrecks. Your fingernail digs at the seal. Air hisses out, a sigh from something older than currency. Molasses-thick darkness coils upward, a scent that clings like regret. First whiff, sun-baked grapes, then smoke, a flicker of sourdough. 23 heartbeats later, the ghost of roses crushed under chariot wheels. The gardener plunges a copper ladle deep, its handle notched with 80 harvest tallies. Liquid arcs through torchlight, black turning, garnet turning arterial crimson. It's less pour and more severed vein. Roman senators diluted this stuff with seawater, which explains both their speeches and the fall of empires. You lift the ladle, a question posed in sacrament. First sip floods your tongue, not wine, but burgundy lightning. Your molars tingle. Eyelids flutter like moth wings against a lantern. Somewhere between third and fourth swallow, the vineyard starts humming in 4-part harmony. Even that cockroach scuttling over your sandal seems profound. Philosophical, really. A scholar of crumbs. Clay breathes around you, the cask's walls flexing like sleeping ribs, buried 30 palms deep. They say same as Egyptian grain silos. Archaeologists found one near Thebes, still sprouting barley after 3 millennia. This cask, it'll outlive your great-grandkids' dental work. Your heel grinds grape seeds into the dirt, future fossils for some tipsy paleontologist. The gardener's laughing now, a sound like walnuts tumbling down temple steps. He's got that look, the one your uncle wore explaining Bitcoin at Thanksgiving. Taste the 4th layer, he rasps. Left side of your tongue, like licking a comet's tail. You obey. Charcoal, myrrh, tiny wink, as if Poseidon sidled up and winked. Historians still argue whether amphorae markings were inventory notes or ancient Yelp reviews. That XXII etched here could be 24 liters, or Dionysus's rating for this batch. Something moves in the liquid's meniscus, a shimmer like oil on troubled water. Your reflection warps, nose elongating into an amphora spout. Maybe ease up on the fourth ladle. The gardener slumps against an olive trunk, glazed eyes tracking fireflies. They used fig sap, he mutters. Old trick. Makes the wine weep false tears. You glance at your cup. Sure enough, rivulets streak the clay like glycerin mascara. Classic deity dramatics. Night deepens. The cask's murmur sinks with your carotid pulse. Each throb pumps stars through your veins, Orion doing the Macarena in your capillaries. When archaeologists crack this thing in 3024, they'll blame the purple tooth enamel on futurist fashion. Not the truth that you drank a galaxy pressed between two harvests, torchlight gilds, the gardener's crow's feet, each wrinkle fermented in its own vintage. He's snoring now, dreams full of pruning hooks and scandalized scarecrows. You swipe the ladle one last time, a nightcap for the road. The moon dips low, wine drunk, and giggling into the sea. Your last sip of wine crystallizes, a sugar-edged comet burning down your throat. The dunes begin their nightly shuffle, sand hissing like a librarian's whisper. Alexandria's ghost presses close, its library reduced to smoldering scrolls and regret. Caesar's men swore the fire was accidental, but ash makes convenient alibis. Granules slip through your fingers, each one etched with dead languages. Phoenician trade routes, Babylonian star charts, a grocery list for Nero's third divorce party. Archaeologists found papyrus fragments in mummy wrappings cheaper than parchment, better than landfill. Imagine some scribe recycling his divorce decree into a pharaoh's bandages. Till death do us part takes literal new meaning. You kick a dune, it avalanches in slow motion. Time here moves like treacle. One granule sticks to your heel obsidian black and sharp as betrayal. Volcanic glass from Santorini's eruption, or Cleopatra's shattered perfume vial. Historians still argue whether the library's floors were limestone or polished onyx. Both sides would keel over if they saw you using their life's work as foot scrub. Moonlight bleeds across the Sahara, dunes flattening into a parchment-colored sea. Your shadow stretches east, a stretched-out version of you already reaching for Cairo. Ever notice how desert nights smell like static? All that friction between sand grains, a billion tiny arguments. A scorpion scuttles over your sandal tail, raised like an asterisk, correcting your path. You have expected to cite sources. Actually, Herodotus exaggerated the camel spider thing. The sand beneath you sighs. Shifts. You sink to your knees, the dunes parting like theater curtains. Something glints below, a copper astrolabe crusted in Birth of Christ rust. Its pointers snag on starlight, tracing Orion's belt across the Milky Way's throat. Someone dropped this running from soldiers or toward a lover. The desert eats stories whole, but indigestion makes for great gossip. Wind sculpts the ridge above, its crest sharp as a scribe's quill. 37 seconds pass before it collapses, the Sahara's hourly reminder that nothing's permanent. Not even Ptolemy's tax records. You pocket the astrolabe, bad luck, probably, but so was dating a Ptolemaic princess. The sand rears up, a wave frozen mid-crash. Touch it, and it disintegrates, a million conflicting memoirs. One granule claims Archimedes invented yoga, another insists the Pharos lighthouse ran on fermented pomegranate juice. Your canteen's last drop hits the sand, a dark bloom spreading like spilled India ink or library fire. Same difference here. The air thickens, burnt papyrus and myrrh. Maybe the ghosts are annoyed you're loitering. A caravan bell tinkles, or is that the astrolabe's corroded gears? Camels materialize, then dissolve. Heat haze or memory. Your sweat tastes like the Mediterranean salt and stolen scrolls. You lie back, let the sky press its starry cheek against yours. Constellations rearrange, forming the library's floor plan. Section B12, Erotic Poetry. Section K3, Snake Antidotes. That one's suspiciously well thumbed. The sand beneath you warms geothermal guilt or leftover wine blush. A beetle drags a papyrus scrap 3 times its size. Property of Callimachus, overdue. Fine, 15 drachmas. Dawn's first blade slices the horizon. The dunes freeze mid-reshuffle, caught red-handed. Your pockets sag with absconded time. Archaeologists will curse your name in 2524. Once they finish reassembling their shovels, the crow plunges, wings scything air like parchment, as dawn gilds its oil-slick feathers. You lift, not your legs, not your will, just the desert's last gasp, hoisting you skyward. Below, sands coil into vineyards, a green quilt stitched over the land. Dionysus's domain, though you half expect a no trespassing sign nailed to an olive tree. Wind shreds through your clothes, threads fraying into blackbirds. Each flap syncs with the crow's rhythm, a metronome carrying you north. The Aegean winks, wave crests dabbing sunlight like 1,000 struck matches. Archaeologists found grape seeds in Bronze Age shipwrecks. Proof, even pirates prioritized happy hour. You bank left, the crow's shadow stitching your shadow to the earth. A vineyard unfurls row after row of plump orbs glistening like shareholders at a tech IPO. 5th century Greeks tossed crushed grapes into shallow pools, their feet dance-mashing fruit into oblivion. Modern sommeliers would faint, or Instagram it as authentic terroir treadmill cardio. A feather drifts into your palm, its edge sharp as a vintner's shears. Centuries back, vineyard keepers hung dead crows to scare off birds, but one island's clay tablets describe feather workers training ravens to harvest clusters. Historians still argue whether it's tax records or the first avian union contract. Your stomach lurches, the crow dives, a missile aimed at a fig tree's heart. You follow, wind screaming through your teeth like a theremin solo. 10 meters from impact, you break, hovering above Dionysus's personal snack bar. Figs split their seams, their innards glistening. Beetles mass like paparazzi. The crow gulps fruit, its beak stippled with sugary gore. You land softer than a hangover's first regret, knees sinking into loam. Vines snake toward your ankles, their grabby tendrils straight out of a B-movie. Light filters through leaves, dappling your arms with leopard spots. A grape bursts underfoot, purple guts splattering your sandal. Dionysus's PR team would call this participatory terroir immersion. You call it a dry cleaning felony. The air thickens, fermenting fruit and sun-baked soil. Breathe deep, your lungs fill with a 16-year-old Cabernet's ghost. Ants march across your wrist, a 6-legged trade route hauling aphid honeydew. Soapstone tablets from Crete show ants hauling grape seeds. One fringe scholar claims they're depicting insect sommeliers. But that's what happens when you mix tenure with mead. The crow croaks, a sound like a cello dragged downstairs. It hops onto a amphora shard, chipped glaze, depicting satyrs doing NSFW things with olive branches. You squint, more cultural appropriation than art. Sunlight tongues the horizon, gold pooling between vine rows. Shadows stretch, their fingers brushing the ruins of a stone press. Workers once sang here, griping about wages in iambic pentameter. Archaeologists found lead curse tablets buried beneath similar presses. May Titus's grapes turn to rat piss. Ancient Yelp reviews hit different. A bee bumbles past, legs pollen pantalooned like a toddler after finger painting. Your crow career sidles closer, beak glittering with stolen fig guts. Back in Athens, they'd have sacrificed a goat for this, a lucky bird omen. In Sparta, they'd have eaten it. You offer a grape, it's devoured with the grace of a dumpster raccoon. The breeze shifts, the reek of goat cheese and brine. Somewhere below, a shepherd naps, his lunch curdling beside an unpaid liar. You pocket a grape stem, souvenir or future toothpick. The crow tilts its head, judging silently. Clouds coagulate, plump as grapeskin. First drop hits your neck, warm, fat, igniting the parched soil's hiss. The crow shrieks, a feathered lightning rod, and leaps skyward. You follow, rosewater rain sheeting your cheeks. Vineyards blur a watercolor rinsed to sepia. Another flap, another gust, your shadow now a comet's tail. The crow banks west, you mimic its tilt, and for 3 stolen breaths, you're nothing but raptor-hearted wind. Shadows pool beneath your feet, ink spreading from a god's overturned pen. The crow dissolves, one final caw swallowed by the dark. You kneel, fingertips skimming liquid black. 5th century scribes mixed lamp soot with egg yolk for ink. But this stuff feels alive. Night unspools, velvet tendrils braiding through cypress groves. Your breath fogs, each exhale a puff of stolen moonlight. Roman poets wrote odes to shadows, calling them the mind's first canvas. You half expect a phantom to start finger painting constellations on your eyelids. A moth lands on your wrist, powdered wings, mapping ley lines. Its antennae twitch, sensing the ghost of a flame extinguished centuries ago. The Dark Ages weren't just a metaphor. Monks used squid ink, so corrosive it ate through vellum. Try explaining that to a medieval abbot with a parchment budget. Coolness climbs your calves, a river of shade pulling you downhill. Your sandals leave no prints, though something glints in the muck. A coin. You fish it out, Byzantine copper, green with age. Historians still argue whether these were currency or tokens for ferrymen of the underworld. Shadows thicken, muting the vineyard's hum. You stumble against a stone slab, its surface scarred with glyphs. Moonlight hitches a ride on the carvings, revealing a procession of stick-figure priests. They carry jars shaped like teardrops, each spilling inky rivulets. Fringe theorists claim it's a recipe for shadow wine, but let's not give Dionysus ideas. A bat flits past, wingtips grazing your ear. Its chirps ricochet, sonar sketching the dark. You pivot, kicking a clay shard. It skitters the sound like a scorpion tap dancing. 4th century Athenians believed broken pottery harbored restless shades. Maybe that's why your neck prickles, or it's the 3 beetles scaling your tunic. The coin warms in your palm, ancient metal thrumming. Auction houses would drool, museums would chain it under glass. You flip it, Constantine's face worn to a ghostly smirk. Bury it again, let the earth keep its secrets. Lean against an olive tree, bark rough as a gladiator's palm. Roots snake into the black, drinking from unseen streams. Scholars once found a Roman well filled with over 9,000 curse tablets. 712 invoked shadows to strangle my neighbor's rooster. Priorities. Wind riffles your hair, a phantom comb. Stars smudge above, their light strained through charcoal clouds. You hum a melody your grandmother crooned. The dark harmonizes, 3 notes lower, richer, like a cello made of midnight. Footsteps echo not yours. They sync with your pulse, a double beat thudding through the soil. Spartans marched in shadow to ambush Persians, but this tread feels heavier. Older, something drags chains, a cloak. Your throat tightens, moonlight feels leagues away. A child's laugh trickles from nowhere, high and honeyed. Your torchless hands flex, useless. Carthaginian parents told kids shadow monsters devoured liars. You've never lied, except that time you forgot your sister's lyre in a well. The laugh fades, replaced by a sigh older than Byzantium. Air thickens, sweet rot and myrrh. You gag. Memphis perfumers used fermented figs in their unguents. It's like inhaling a tax collector's last meal. Shadows bulge, forming a shape too fluid for edges. A hand, a serpent. It cascades, molten glass seeking form. Egyptian priests lit lamps shaped like lotus buds to repel Kybit, shadow souls. Maybe you should have packed one and a snack. Your heel grinds something brittle, a turtle shell. pick it up carved with a six-pointed star. Crusaders BROUGHT, Chinese letter artifacts back, or looted them. The debate's a Rorschach test for historians. 3 beetles flee the shards, their shells iridescent as oil slicks. A nightjar calls its trill stitching sky to earth. You count heartbeats, 97 before the reply. Time crumples like rejected papyrus. Farmers used sundials by day, but who measured night's depth before clocks. Liquid shadows swirl around your ankles, insistent as a cat. Step forward, they part like smoke. Step back, they cling like resin. Persian rug weavers knotted shadow patterns to confuse evil spirits. You're living their tapestry and failing the pattern quiz. Moonlight bleeds through clouds, a silver scythe cutting the dark. Your shadow blooms stretching eastward. It flickers, a candle's last gasp. You wave, it mimics you a half-breath late, playful or mocking. Byzantine courtiers practiced shadow puppetry to mock emperors. Many lost hands, but the jokes must been fire. The crow's cry slices back, a rusty hinge screeching. You spin spotted perched on a broken column. One eye glows, amber catching starlight. It croaks, a sound that could curdle milk. In Constantinople, they blamed crows for plagues, but maybe the birds just had bad PR. Your toe stubs an amphora, clang echoing like a war gong. Wine sloshes, syrupy and black. Dip a finger, it clings like liquid obsidian. Dionysus's sommelier whispers, aged 900 moons, notes of loam and regret. You spit, it tastes like a mummy's cough drop. Shadows convulse, a ink-spilled tsunami. You sprint or try, but the dark wraps your legs like wet linen. Carthaginians drowned traitors in tar, but this feels personal. The crow dive bombs, snatching a lock of your hair. Helpful isn't the word. Lightning fractures the sky. The world freezes in bone-white exposure. Your shadow disintegrates, reforming 3 paces left. Aristotle wrote that shadows prove Earth's roundness. Right before tripping on a toga, rain follows, needles pricking your scalp. You dash under an oak, its canopy weeping rust-colored sap. The crow joins you dripping and judgmental. Macedonians believed storm shadows hid Zeus's discarded thunderbolts. You check the mud, just a very confused worm. Darkness softens, edges blurring into dawn's first blush. Your shadow pales, clingy as a nursling. You've survived the ode, but the epilogue's unwritten. The crow preens, staring at where the night still pools thickest. 3 figs plop into the muck, ripeness sacrificed to the receding dark. You leave them, partly an offering, partly too squashed to salvage. The vineyard emerges, vines glazed with dew. Shadows retreat, but their chill lingers in your marrow. A cicada rasps, its song fraying night's last threads. You exhale, a plume of not quite daylight. Turn east, the sun's rim peeks over hills. Your shadow stretches waist deep in the day now, but its fingers still brush the ink-stained earth. Moonlight slicks across the vineyard rows, each grape glowing like a vial of midnight oil. Your sandals sink into soil still warm from day's last gasp. Dionysus's domain smells of crushed time and overripe promises, the air so thick you could chew it. 6th century BCE vintners mixed honey into wine to honor him, a sticky sacrament for the god of bad decisions. Vines twist toward the horizon, their tendrils scribbling secrets on the darkening sky. A breeze riffles leaves, green whispers carrying the sea's salt rasp. You pluck a grape, skin taut as a drumhead. Pop it, sweetness explodes with a tart afterbite. Some claim Bacchic rites began at sunset. Others say they just really hated mornings. Shadows pool between the trellises, ink spreading under your feet. Amphorae line the path, their bellies full of last year's harvest. The clay feels alive, vibrating with slow fermentation. Experts argue whether Greeks added seawater to wine for flavor, or because they were halfway to brining themselves. Your toe nudges a terracotta shard, its edge still sharp as regret. Mosaic patterns peek through dirt, a dancing satyr missing his legs. Nightjars trill overhead, their cries stitching earth to sky. 3rd century workers buried garlic at vine roots to ward off blight. Smells like someone tried and failed spectacularly. The moon climbs its light, pooling in hollows like liquid silver. Your shadow stretches grotesque and wavering, a drunkard's portrait. You pivot, watching it crumple against a stone press. Historians still debate what burned in those festival bonfires: olive wood, offering beasts, or just really aggressive theater props. A grape bursts underfoot, purple guts splattering your ankle. It smells like rebellion and Pittsburgh. You freeze, listening to juice trickle into soil. Byzantines believed night-harvested grapes brewed madness. Too late now, your toes are marinated in potential psychosis. Wind carries a distant lyre's moan notes, fraying at the edges. Cicadas throttle their buzzsaw song. You spot fireflies ahead, flickering drunkards weaving between vines. One lands on your wrist, its glow syncopated, like a heartbeat with commitment issues. The path narrows, trellises arching into a shadow tunnel. Cobwebs glisten, dewdrop necklaces strung by invisible jewelers. Your elbow brushes a grape cluster, cold beads against skin. Roman poets wrote of Bacchus breathing life into clay statues here. But the real magic in not face planting on these roots. Moonlight fractures through a fig tree, lace patterns on your tunic. You reach, fingertips grazing fruit softer than a philosopher's ego. It oozes sugar and seeds clinging like gossip. Spartans ate figs before battle for stamina and to annoy Athenian dentists. A bat carves figure eights overhead, wingtips whispering threats. Your sandal snags a root, the world tilts. You stagger into a grape press. Wood groans, its screw mechanism creaking like a bored skeleton. They found a press in Crete with bull horns attached, part altar, part OSHA violation. The sea hums beyond the hill, a bass line to the vineyard's percussion. Salt stings your lips, Or is that the ghost of last year's wine? You lick a grapevine's sap, bitterness, puckering your mouth. Macedonian kings drunk on power and literal drunkenness once declared war on tides here, lost spectacularly. Stone stairs materialize, moss eating their edges. You climb each step slick with condensed dark. At the top, a view of the Aegean chewing the horizon. Waves glitter, fish scale mosaics shifting under the moon. Fishermen here still throw wine to Poseidon, though his Yelp reviews are mixed. Your lungs pull brine and loam, a cocktail older than Homer. A goat bell clanks in the distance, its tinny protest swallowed by night. You trace the moon's reflection on a water jug, ripples erasing your fingertips. They say Dionysus taught shepherds to ferment milk, which explains a lot about ancient cheese. Clouds hemorrhage moonlight, the vineyard dissolves into silhouette. Your knees hit dew-soaked grass, a sudden surrender to the hour. Cicadas wind down, their engines sputtering. Somewhere, a donkey brays, the original nihilist. You smile, lips salty from air, or the tears of a god who partied too hard. Your fingers brush a grape leaf, sticky silk, strands catch the moonlight like spider's breath. Chrysalises dangle, opaque pouches swaying to night's pulse. Inside, something squirms. Metamorphosis isn't just for moths. It's the vineyard's oldest punchline. A cocoon splits, wet wings unfold in stop-motion glory. The moth's antennae twitch, scenting fermenting fruit with the desperation of a latecomer to a symposium. You crouch, knees popping like amphorae seals. Priests in Thebes once drank pulverized cocoons in wine, a sacrament thicker than Tuesday's lentil stew. Moonlight glazes the moth's fur, giving it the fuzzy dignity of a miniature philosopher. It staggers airborne, crash landing into your wine cup. Classic. The Phoenicians traded silk for Egyptian gold, though their moth jewels never quite stuck as currency. Silk threads cling to your wrist, persistent as debt collectors. You pluck one, it hums against your thumbprint. Experts claim Cleopatra's barge sails were woven with larvae-spun thread, but her accountants probably said linen to save drachmas. The air vibrates, a subsonic growl beneath cicada songs. You press your palm to the earth, feeling pupae shuffle in their sleep. Historians still argue whether Dionysus's life parables referenced vineyards, insects, or that one embarrassing symposium in Corinth. A shard of terracotta jabs your heel vengeance from last season's harvest. You kick it, watching it vanish into moonlit vines. 6th century vintners buried cocoons with grape seeds, a rebirth. Tax for stubborn soil. The grapes never got the memo. Your wine cup overflows, moth legs paddle in the dregs. You flick it free, wings leaving a pollen trail. Minoan's painted chrysalises on fermentation, jars, a canvas of almost ready, stretched 3,000 years. Wind riffles the vines, hundreds of cocoons click like castanets. A thread snaps, silk drifts into your eyelashes. Persian envoys allegedly wore moth-wing cloaks until someone pointed out they dissolved in rain. The moth spirals upward, a drunkard's flight path toward the moon. Its shadow merges with yours, a two-headed monster prancing through trellises. You toast its journey, libation splashing on a root knot. Let the earth make terrible decisions too. Something crunches underfoot, another cocoon sacrificed to clumsy mortal feet. You crouch peering at the wreckage. Goo glints iridescent as Nero's lake parties. Some claim sacred wine required moth ash as thickener, but recipe scrolls conveniently caught fire. The sea exhales, salt cutting through grape musk. Your cup's dregs swirl, a mini maelstrom reflecting star fragments. You drain it, bitter silk, tang blooming on your tongue. Metamorphosis complete, granite warms beneath your knees, a forgotten sun captured in stone. You press your ear to the slab, granite still humming with the day's stored heat. Midnight can't cool this rock, not when it cradles stories older than Olympus. A tremor rolls not in the earth, but through it. Your ribs vibrate, a subsonic chuckle from something vast and half asleep. Historians still argue whether ancient quakes were called Titan breath or just Poseidon's bad temper after too much brine. Your palm flattens against the stone, fingertips tracing grooves worn by 80 generations of shepherds. The rock thrums, a bass note deeper than temple bells. You're not imagining it. The earth's pulse quickens when nightingale songs cease. Moonlight puddles in the granite's cracks, liquid mercury fleeing the dawn. One crack widens a hair's breadth, as if the rock sighs in its sleep. Delphi's priests hid bronze tripods over fault lines, their oracle tech detecting tremors before mortals felt them. You lie belly down, chest pressed to the ground like a child eavesdropping. Dust rises, smelling of iron and petrified roots. 17 cicadas fall silent mid-chirp, their legs curled like tiny question marks. Granite groans, a sound felt in molars, not ears. The vibration travels up your arms, settling behind your eyes as pressure. 4th century miners claimed to hear giants snoring below Naxos, though they also praised hallucinogenic mushroom stew. Your wine cup tips, dregs pooling in a crack. The earth drinks it greedily, a faint hiss rising from the stone. The Pantheon's floor still bears ancient grape stains, marble slurping offerings like a drunkard's slurred thanks. A pebble levitates, just a thumb's width before clattering back. You hold your breath. The 1896 Athens quake reportedly made statues pirouette. But that might have been ouzo-fueled hindsight. Something shifts, not the ground itself, but the weight of it. Your body feels lighter, as if the earth's dreaming of shedding you. Farmers near Thera swore plows moved uphill during quakes, chasing goats who suddenly floated. You roll onto your back, spread-eagled like a sacrifice. The stars blur, rippling as though seen through heat waves. Granite warms your spine, a baker's oven cooling at dawn. Titans might be snoozing, but their dreams have a kick. A root snakes across your wrist, dry and gnarled as a mummy's finger. It pulses once with sour green sap. Your temples ache with borrowed memories, volcanic glass forming, continents ripping apart, seas boiling into salt-crusted air. The root retreats embarrassed. You sit up, head spinning like a dropped drachma. 6th century alchemists drank powdered garnet to see Earth's bones. They mostly saw vomit mosaics. Dawn's first bruise purples the east. The granite stills its stories locked tight as a merchant's strongbox. You stand knees, cracking louder than the fault line. The earth keeps its secrets, and your wine cup vines snake around your ankles, thin as lute strings, but twice as stubborn. They pull gentle as a nurse's hand tucking in a fevered child. Moonlight stains the vineyard indigo, grapes glinting like soldiers' helmets after night patrol. Your wine cup's still empty, the earth drank its fill. Dionysus's signature move, really, always thirsty gods and drier mortals. Ancient revelers pressed grapes barefoot to connect with earthly delights. Their toes probably pruned for weeks. A breeze carries salt, the Aegean's daytime breath gone stale. Blossoms shiver overhead, petals brushing your cheeks like moth wings. Historians still argue whether Dionysus invented napping or just perfected the art of drunk passing out. The vines tighten, not painfully, more like a too-warm blanket in summer. You sink to one knee, soil shifting to cradle your weight. Alexandria's library once stored a scroll on sleeping upright like cranes. Lost when a scholar dozed off mid-read, leaves press against your eyelids, their chlorophyll scent sharpening to pine resin. Your heartbeat slows, matching the rhythm of distant waves. They found 6-ton stone beds in Cretan ruins, but everyone pretends they're ceremonial altars. Something warm trickles down your temple, not sweat, but sap. It smells of fermented honey and myrrh, Dionysus's cologne, probably. 19th century vintners slept in cellars to bind with wine spirits. Mostly they bound with mold allergies. Your fingers dig into dirt, cooling now as dawn approaches. Roots squirm under your palms, shy earthworms fleeing the light. That one Macedonian king bathed in goat milk for eternal youth. He died snoozing in a yogurt vat. The vines reach your collarbone, weaving a living cuirass. Grapes burst under their own weight, juice threading your shirt. Pompeii's brothels offered fig paste as a sleep aid. Reviews called it sticky but effective. Moonlight pools in your empty cup, a silver illusion of wine. You tilt it toward the horizon, the sea's dark curve. A Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter. The sea's dark curve accepts your offering, silver merging with endless blue. Vines unravel, their grip loosening like tired fingers after a long embrace. Soil hums beneath you, a wordless lullaby older than empires or olive groves. Dawn bleeds peach and amber at the horizon, the world holding its breath, then exhaling, letting go. Blossoms shed their petals, one brushes your lip, sweet as a half-remembered promise. Even the grapes grow still, no longer soldiers, just fruit again. Your eyelids dip, the vineyard blurs into watercolor greens and purples. Salt air folds around you, a blanket woven from tide pools and shipwrecks. They say Dionysus napped inside thunderstorms. But here, the quiet feels sacred. Breath steadies slower now, each inhale softer than the last. Roots cushion your shoulders, earth cradling what the sky releases. No scrolls or stone beds here, just grace without instructions. The light dims not darkness, but a softened gold staining your hands translucent. Waves retreat their whispers, thinning to a threadbare sigh. Your cup lies empty, yet somehow full, overflowing with moonbeam relics. Sleep comes not as a thief, but a vineyard cat purring at your side. Fingers uncurl, palm up, open, receiving nothing, needing nothing. Even gods grow quiet when the world dreams. Your final breath merges with the breeze, carrying the taste of blossoms and the faintest hint of honey.